This guy is Kim Jin-woo, an unlucky nerd summoned to a world on the verge of destruction. The land was completely dry, the people were suffering, and 90% of the world was already burning in black flames. Even though he was screwed, Kim became an archmage in no time. Thanks to a stolen barrier he created, a few kingdoms still remained, but even that wouldn't hold out for long. That world had 3 years at most. Since he came from another world, his soul was immune to the erosion. But on his own, there was almost nothing he could do. His apprentice would tease him, telling him not to enter the erosion again, because next time, he'd end up inside the body of a little kid. Kim thought about how he had never gotten any rest, not even after arriving in that world. Back then, he would constantly down coffee and energy drinks just to play games. At that moment, a light appeared in front of him. He was swallowed by the energy in front of a black portal, and that was how he reached transcendence. He entered his own world like a spirit. His body traveled until it reached a mansion radiating an intense energy. Inside, a boy was in a coma, and the boy's grandfather was yelling in a pretty suspicious position. Kim was shocked when he remembered who the boy was, the grandson of a billionaire, a genius who had everything. Using his magic, he tried to help the boy, but he accidentally reincarnated inside the boy's body. When he woke up, he was immediately surrounded by a bunch of people hugging him. He had no idea what was going on, and he discovered that even in this body, he could still return to the world of Arcelion. But it was after arriving there that he had a stroke of genius. Before that world was completely wiped out, he came up with the idea of turning everything into a game through the soul portal. That way, he could bring other people there to fight the erosion for him. This guy is basically a lazy genius. He explains his plan to summon Earth's inhabitants through the soul portal, making them believe the world is just a video game. With a bright smile, the young man shows he is fully committed to putting his plan into action. He adds that he will craft an engaging storyline to guide them against the erosion, ensuring these immune humans help prevent the land's destruction. After all, in his past life, he worked as a game developer, but now he has been reincarnated as a powerful mage. To top off his new reality, he also became the youngest son of an extremely wealthy and influential family. Knowing there are only 3 years left until complete ruin, the young man prepares himself, determined to fulfill his mission. Shortly after, the family gathers around a massive dining table to enjoy a refined meal. During dinner, the doting grandfather asks his youngest grandson what he'd like to eat or do, promising to grant any request. Seizing the opportunity, the boy replies that there is indeed something he would really love to accomplish. The old man quickly sets his utensils down in apprehension, asking if his grandson is thinking about studying again. He then questions if the boy forgot that overstudying nearly killed him, but the young man denies that's the case. Without beating around the bush, he finally reveals to everyone that his true wish is to create a game. At that declaration, the relatives at the table are completely shocked, frozen in place by what they just heard. The old man trembles with tension, asking if he's referring to those damned video games, leaving Jin-woo uncertain about the family's reaction. However, to everyone's surprise, the grandfather emotionally covers his mouth and gives a clear thumbs up. Seeing his reaction, the relatives cheer enthusiastically, saying games are great and that the boy has finally found a normal hobby for his age. Swept up in the excitement, the old man declares it the best news in a long time and asks if they own a game company, to which someone mentions FS Games. Without hesitation, the grandfather immediately hands the company over to his grandson as a discharge gift, leaving Jin-woo stunned by such overwhelming support. Staring at the building's facade, the young man reflects that taking over a virtually bankrupt brand is the perfect chance to execute his plans. Expressing his gratitude, Jin-woo thanks the old man and promises to give his all in this new endeavor. Back in the other world, the young man regains consciousness inside the magic tower. Settling into an imposing throne, Jin-woo realizes he was brought to the magic tower and notes that his original body remains unharmed. Testing his hand movements, he explains that he left an auto-control spell on his body back on Earth to ensure everything keeps running smoothly there. With the situation under control, the mage stands up holding his staff, determined to start writing the game's story. Meanwhile, in a vast library bathed in sunlight, an elf concentrates on writing amidst books floating all around her. Focused on her task, the writer fills the tome's pages with various symbols and magical notes. Suddenly, Jin-woo appears behind her, asking if she's working on a new piece, giving the girl a massive fright. The high elf, Tia, complains, telling him not to sneak up on her like that, while the young man apologizes for the intrusion. Glancing at the open book on the table, Jin-woo remarks that the realm's greatest writer remains as busy as ever. Touching the page, the young woman explains she is compiling her works into a collection to offer people a sense of refuge during dark times. Smiling at her response, Jinwoo praises the girl, saying she truly has a wonderful heart. He then asks her to imagine a scenario where a stranger suddenly appears in the realm, leading the writer to wonder if this is for a new novel. The mage considers that these people wouldn't feel a duty to protect this world, nor have any ties to it, asking what it would take to make them fight desperately for it. Hearing the prompt, Tia reflects that to control someone who's just looking for fun, you'd first need to give them a sense of belonging. With a sharp look, the elf suggests that the ultimate formula would be a love story followed by a grand tragedy. She envisions a scenario where the outsider meets their ideal partner, falls in love, and decides to put down roots in that world. However, the writer warns that the twist would come just as that love was about to bloom right before the protagonist's eyes, because that is the exact moment the beloved person would meet a utterly tragic end. Writing furiously in her book, the girl adds that this would be the perfect time to comfort the hero and steer them against the true enemy. Listening to the elf's excitement, Jinwoo takes in her suggestions about using respected figures sacrificing themselves to create an even bigger emotional impact. Amazed by how effortlessly she weaves the plot, the young man concludes that Tia really is the greatest storyteller in the realm. With that, he reflects that combining love and revenge is the perfect hook to get humans deeply invested and acting on their own. Thrilled by the idea of seeing these new visitors crying over the narrative, the author admits how satisfying it will be to watch it all unfold. Noticing his companion going overboard, Jinwoo snaps her back to reality, prompting the young woman to apologize for getting carried away. Brushing off her outburst, he proposes a partnership and reveals that millions of souls will read her work if all goes well, leaving the girl speechlessly shocked. Seeing her shock, Jinwoo adds that it could be hundreds of millions of readers, asking her what's wrong. Trembling with emotion, the writer deludes herself into imagining crowds praising her story as an absolute genius masterpiece. Completely losing her composure, the elf leans over the table, promising to do whatever it takes for this chance, making Jinwoo wonder if she always writes in such a crazed state. Trying to refocus, the mage explains that the initial test will start with about 3,000 people appearing in Rain's ward, a number that will grow rapidly. As Jinwoo reinforces the need to give them a reason to fight the erosion, Tia compares the idea to a fantasy novel, asking if these people would come from another civilization. Confirming her theory, the young man instructs that the story should begin in a Dent village, using the evacuation site as the tutorial zone. At that, the girl cheers, thinking of the tragedy that will start there, leading Jinwoo to decide it's best to just leave her to work in peace. Reflecting on how he'll use the story of Arsalan with Tia's help, he plans to present the proposal to the game company once the script is ready. However, Jinwoo acknowledges that a mere story won't convince the company employees, as they'll just think he's lost his mind. Thus, the young man concludes he must present a completely revolutionary full immersion technology that should be impossible by current standards. Knowing the soul portal is still limited, the mage decides to start by creating a promotional video and narrative to blow everyone away. Determined to move forward, the young man realizes it's time to gather some actors to bring his project to life. Using his magic for long-distance communication, he calls Hasman, who responds immediately, confirming he hears him loud and clear. The young man then orders him to bring Halon and Haina to Rainsward Castle for an important mission, receiving immediate confirmation from his servant. Shortly after, the imposing Rainsward Castle stands tall under a clear, sunny sky. Amidst a swirling vortex of magical energy, Jinwoo appears before the palace gates. Bowing respectfully, the three servants greet their master's return. With great enthusiasm, Hasman claims he faithfully managed the territory in his absence. Halon then wishes the blessing of the goddess of light upon the young man. After praising everyone's great work, Jinwoo chuckles and asks them to step back a bit since they're standing way too close. Proving her loyalty, Haina declares she is ready to sacrifice her life for Arsalan. Observing them, Jinwoo reflects that the two men look far too villainous to play lead roles. Getting a sudden idea, the young man flashes a sly smile before continuing. The mage then asks Hasman about his proficiency with dark magic, to which the servant replies his power doesn't even compare to his master's. Saying that's more than enough, Jinwoo hands over dark robes for the pair to try on. Dressed as shadow priests, the two servants panic, calling it sheer blasphemy, while the young man compliments the look. Next, Jinwoo turns to Haina to decide on her outfit. Examining her heavy armor, he concludes it's way too much for a game night. With that, the young man holds up a new outfit and commands Haina to put it on, leaving the servant completely stunned. Faced with the warrior's shock, Jin-woo firmly insists that she put the clothes on without complaining. Seeing the servant's reluctance, Jin-woo emphasizes that it's all for Arsalan and tells her to put on the outfit already, leaving Haina completely paralyzed. Taking a few hesitant steps, the warrior calls out to her master with extreme shyness. Presenting herself in the new outfit, the girl lets him know she's changed, making Jin-woo's eyes widen in surprise. As the young man praises her look, saying it turned out perfect, Haina suspiciously questions if that can even be called armor. Jin-woo explains that the more skin exposed, the higher the defense, and hearing her objection, he claims it's a fundamental law of his home world, Earth. Observing the gathered group, the mage notes that the scene is almost ready, but feels an important element is still missing while the servants whisper in silence. Thinking about the story's structure, the young man considers having the knight protect a fragile saint against the villainous duo, contemplating calling Saint Thabesa. However, remembering that the old woman is over 200 years old, Jin-woo quickly dismisses the idea, concluding she won't work for the role. Suddenly, the young man is interrupted by a child's voice echoing through the area, inviting everyone to play. Soon, two children run by excitedly, teasing their companion for being slow, while a succubus chases after them, pleading with them not to make a mess in the castle. Noticing Jin-woo's presence, the little ones run happily toward him, leaving their guardian desperate. Catching her breath, Eri the succubus humbly apologizes, explaining that the little ones ended up sneaking into the palace on their own. Taking in the scene, the mage gives a satisfied smile and whispers that this is absolutely perfect. Without hesitation, Jin-woo points his staff at the newcomer and orders her to play the saint, leaving Eri completely shocked. The girl panics, arguing she's from an evil race made only to seduce people, but the young man replies that this quirk makes her even more perfect for the role. With a satisfied smile, Jin-woo claps his hands together and announces that it's time to begin. Facing the properly costumed group, the young man asks if everyone is ready to start a little acting performance. Hearing the servant recite all his titles as the Magic Tower Master, Jin-woo replies that there's no need to call him that. Kneeling before the throne, the girl confirms she fulfilled his request and gathered all 130 disciples. She then hesitates for a moment, trying to bring up a small caveat about the situation. Curious as she notices the scene, the young girl asks why everyone is wearing such strange clothes, and Jin-woo tells her they are just playing a small role. Holding the orb in his hands, the mage explains with a sly smile that this act is necessary to save Arsalan. Before detailing his plans, the young man announces to the crowd that he recently went through an awakening. Hearing him reveal that he can now open a soul portal to other worlds, the disciples cheer enthusiastically, congratulating their master. Right after, Jin-woo clarifies that he will use the portal to summon heroes from another world who are immune to erosion, just like him. Instructing the group to set their duties aside for a while, the young man states that everyone's mission will be to pave the way for these warriors to fight. Handing the glowing object to his servants, he explains that all the scenes they just acted out are recorded inside it. With that, Jin-woo instructs the mages to add more skeletons and a grander, more detailed feel to the footage. To everyone's total shock, the young man orders them to compress all that video to fit inside a small mana crystal. Seeing his subordinates' reaction, the master firmly warns them that he never wants to hear a mage say they can't do something ever again. With a confident look, Jin-woo adds that making the impossible possible is the true essence of a mage. Watching the group gathered around the orb in their blue outfits, the young man thinks the scene looks strikingly familiar. He then recalls a blue cat doll that used to sit in his old room. Pointing at the group, Jin-woo declares that from that moment on, they will all be called his mage imangs, leaving the disciples completely confused. The master explains that this is a creature from Earth capable of granting any wish and asks them to follow his orders, receiving an emotional confirmation from everyone. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to downtown Seoul, showing the heavy traffic in the middle of the city. Immediately after, a car door opens and someone steps firmly onto the sidewalk. Dressed in a sharp suit and holding a metallic briefcase, Jin-woo adjusts his posture in front of a large commercial building. With a confident smile, the young man notes that the promotional video was finished quickly thanks to his servants' hard work. Suddenly, a man approaches and greets him, asking if he is Chairman Lee Jin-woo. The burly man officially introduces himself as his new secretary, Kim Han-soo, and expresses his immense pleasure at meeting him. As they shake hands, the secretary explains he was personally assigned by the young man's grandfather to assist him, and Jin-woo responds by wishing for a great partnership. Walking toward the building, Han-soo mentions he gathered the employees in the conference room, and Jin-woo suggests heading up right away. Inside the room, the company's head of development, Han Yong-seon, stares at his phone in deep concern. On the screen, Several headlines claim the company is ruined and on the verge of shutting down. Looking at the news, Young Seon recalls that Lee Jin-woo is a prodigy who earned multiple doctorates at a very young age. The employee wonders why the young man would take over a failing brand after surviving something so tragic, asking himself if his goal is to revive the business. Excitedly pushing open the conference room door, the secretary loudly announces the arrival of the new chairman. Jin-woo then walks inside with an extremely confident and composed demeanor. Noticing the young man's entry, Young Seon is left completely baffled, unable to understand what is happening. Impressed by what he sees, the director recognizes that it really is Lee Jin-woo and notes his incredible presence. Taking his seat at the table, Jin-woo introduces himself, stating that he doesn't think formal introductions are necessary. With a determined look, the chairman proposes that they start the meeting immediately. Reviewing the paperwork, the young man recalls the cancellation of the company's last project and the failure of their multi-million-dollar game before it even launched. Jin-woo then asks if the entire development team jumped ship to their competitor, while Young Seon apologizes and takes the blame. As the director fears the company's closure and mass layoffs, the young man shocks everyone by declaring that he finds the situation perfect. Seeing the team's surprise, Jin-woo explains that their current ruin allows them to start completely from scratch, instantly winning the staff's support. With the group's attention, the young man announces he has something to show them and tells his secretary to hand out copies of the project. Picking up the paper, the employee reads the title out loud, Project Arsalan. Clarifying the proposal, Jin-woo explains that it is a virtual reality game containing the entire lore and concept art for them to review. Flipping through the pages, the developers praise the rich storyline and the blend of medieval style with a modern tone. However, Young Seon points out that requiring VR goggles might hurt sales and make the public view the technology as a scam. Smiling with confidence, Jin-woo assures the director that people will practically be begging to buy the game. Resting his hand firmly on the table, he reinforces that he is telling the absolute truth. Standing up before everyone, Jin-woo declares that the virtual reality game he designed will change the world. To prove his point, the young man asks them to head to the motion capture studio and orders the entire team to gather there. Shortly after, the company's staff gathers curiously in the spacious studio. While waiting, the employees whisper among themselves, wondering if this is just a scam or another eccentricity from their new boss. Hearing from the director that everyone has arrived, Jin-woo asks them to turn off the room lights. One of the employees then flips the wall switch, shutting off all the lighting in the room. Crouching in the center of the room, the chairman instructs everyone to take a step back for safety. Placing a dark object on the floor, the young man announces that it's time to begin the demonstration. Suddenly, the small box begins to glow intensely, casting beams of light into the air. With that, a massive magic circle expands across the studio, sending the terrified employees backing away. In an instant, the floor lights up and begins transforming into real grass. Adjusting his glasses in shock, Young Seon screams, unable to fathom how a magic circle and real vegetation just appeared out of nowhere. Surrounded by the incredible transformation, the director stands completely paralyzed as the mist clears. Watching the sudden change in the environment, one of the panicked staff members frantically asks what on earth is happening. Out of nowhere, a massive dragon emerges from the sky, roaring loudly over the frozen crowd. As Young Seon loses his mind and tells everyone to run, Jin-woo tells him to calm down, explaining that it's just a hologram. Upon hearing the explanation, the director stands stunned while the young man emphasizes that this is the virtual reality experience. Spreading his arms wide before the breathtaking landscape, Jin-woo proudly announces that this place is Arsalan. The vast scenery unfolds in detail, revealing the fantasy world that will serve as the stage for the project. Blown away by it all, Young Seon asks if they are truly inside the game, receiving confirmation from the young man about the realism of the scene. With that, Jin-woo snaps his fingers, proposing they move on to the main story while the staff tries to process the technology. Instantly, the sunny environment darkens rapidly, putting everyone on high alert. Above them, an eclipse unfolds, blocking out the sun and staining the sky a reddish hue. Soon, a dark aura consumes the area as the astronomical event comes to completion. Next, a skeletal hand bursts through the cracked ground, emerging right before the terrified group. A horde of skeletons surges forward alongside dark mages, shouting for the mortals to tremble in fear. Amidst the chaos, the shadowy leader commands his servants to feast on human flesh. Terrified as the monsters draw near, Young Seon asks if it really is just a hologram, but Jin-woo sarcastically replies that maybe it isn't. Facing the attack, Haina suddenly leaps in, shouting for everyone to fall back immediately. With incredible agility, the warrior charges into battle, wielding her weapons against the creatures. In a single devastating strike, Haina shatters the skeleton horde, sending them flying through the air. Right after, Irie reaches out with a glowing hand and tells everyone not to be afraid. With that, a massive pillar of light rises from the ground, cleansing all the darkness in the area. Floating beside the knight, Irie firmly declares that the light will protect everyone. Awed by such a display, the staff cheers wildly, shouting that the saint's blessing and the knight have saved them. Watching the crowd's reaction, Jinwoo notes with satisfaction that everyone was completely immersed in the demo. With a sly smile, the young man tells himself that everything is going exactly according to plan. With his arms crossed, Jinwoo watches the audience's reaction, satisfied that everything is going exactly according to plan. Then, a sly smile creeps onto the young man's face as he announces it's time for the climax. Before them, the skeletal villain laughs, declaring he's found new test subjects for his experiments. The creature immediately orders his minions forward to tear the humans apart and feast on their flesh. Seeing the threat approach, Haina calls for the Saintess to prepare her support magic. Pointing her hand toward the heavens, the girl asks everyone to lend her their light for the spell. Moved by her plea, the employees raise their hands, shouting to combine their strength and help her. With their gathered power, an intense light concentrates around the blade in battle. Seizing the opportunity, the knight leaps toward the enemies, unleashing a powerful frontal assault. Striking with determination, Haina cries out that this is for the salvation of Arsalan. Thrilled by the scene, the crowd chants the battle cry in unison, cheering for victory. The wave of energy slashes through the skeleton army and surges directly at the dark leader. Taking a direct hit, the monster stutters, unable to believe the sheer force of the attack. A massive, radiant explosion consumes the battlefield, wiping away all the darkness. Finally, the creature is thrown to the ground, letting out one last groan before completely collapsing. Crawling on the floor, the Dark Lord desperately begs the Lord of Erosion to spare his life. Without an ounce of pity, the mysterious figure replies that he has no use for weak trash. With an agonizing scream, the creature is instantly destroyed, consumed by dark flames. Watching the scene unfold, the staff whisper in disbelief that the villain just wiped out his own ally. Right after, the enemy points directly at everyone and declares that it's their turn now. With that, the dark energy surges toward the group, making everyone scream in terror from the impact. In the middle of the panic, Young Sion cries out for help, telling everyone to run immediately. Suddenly, the environment snaps back to normal, leaving the staff still trembling in fear inside the studio. Noticing that everything vanished, the director's eyes widen, completely clueless about what just happened. Looking around, the entire crew finds themselves sprawled on the floor as silence fills the room. Standing by the light switch, Jinwoo smiles calmly and asks everyone what they thought of the demo. With a satisfied look, the young man adds that the result wasn't half bad for a simple concept video. Excited, the employees rush over to the president, asking how that was even possible and begging to see the Saintess again, while he tells everyone to calm down. Awkwardly adjusting his glasses, Young Sion apologizes for overreacting, explaining that it was his very first time experiencing virtual reality. Then the director questions if it's really okay to show off something so incredible, warning that a trade secret like that is worth more than they can imagine. With a clever smirk, Jinwoo points out that no one believed it until they saw it with their own eyes, telling them to spread the word that the company is developing a VR game. When he asks if they're ready to join him, the team ecstatically shouts that they'll do anything and follow him to the very end. Pleased with their response, the young man tells them to forget traditional game development, explaining they'll be using a new engine he created that's easy to learn. Looking at the mesmerized group, Jinwoo confidently declares that together, they'll conquer not just the gaming industry, but global culture itself. Raising his fist in the air, the president hypes everyone up to go make history, receiving a roaring cheer of agreement in response. Shortly after, an online post begins to go viral, claiming that the company is building a revolutionary game that will change the world. The post hyped up the news, emphasizing that this was a genuine full-immersion virtual reality game. On top of that, the message praises Lee Jinwoo as a savior who will build the ultimate dream paradise for every gamer. However, many netizens react mockingly in the comments, claiming the company is broke and that it's all a fake stunt by a spoiled heir. Inside his private lab, the young man monitors the online backlash on his computer, smiling as he admits he expected this level of doubt. Suddenly, his phone on the desk rings, showing an incoming call from his grandfather. Answering casually, Jin-woo confirms to the old man that he's already taken a quick look at the news circulating online. Furious over the hateful comments directed at his grandson, his grandfather offers to send in the legal team to sue the critics. But Jin-woo chuckles, saying all this buzz works as great publicity. Then, the old man changes the subject, curiously asking how progress and business operations are coming along at the company. Holding the new device in his hands, Jin-woo enthusiastically replies that they just finished the prototype and everything is running perfectly, leaving his grandfather thrilled by the news. Next, the young man mentions that they just implemented the fishing skill into the system. When asked if he likes fishing, the old man brags that back in the day, he used to hook massive sharks. Hearing that, Jin-woo invites him to go fishing together, but his grandfather declines, explaining that his back hurts and he'd rather rest. Smiling with the device in hand, the young man says he has something incredible to show him and lets him know he's heading over to his house. Soon after, night falls over the city while the lights inside the residence remain bright. Examining the device curiously, the old man asks in surprise if this is the virtual reality gear his grandson built. Nodding with enthusiasm, Jin-woo tells his grandfather to lie down comfortably to try it out, promising him a big surprise. Adjusting the headset over his eyes, the old man notes how perfectly it fits, recognizing the boy's talent. With everything set, the young man asks if he can start, receiving an eager okay to test the game. Pressing the button on the device, the old man hears Jin-woo say he'll see him in Arsalan. Right after, a blinding blue flash bursts forth, filling the old man's vision. Blinking in total confusion, his eyesight slowly clears up amidst a bright new light. Looking down at his hands, the grandfather wonders in shock where he ended up as he takes in the surrounding forest. Surrounded by the lush landscape, the old man stands up to take in the greenery and the gentle breeze. Suddenly, Jin-woo comes walking through the grass and welcomes his grandfather to Arsalan. Shocked by the sudden change of scenery, the old man asks where they are, while Jin-woo explains that this is the VR game currently in development. Holding up a mirror that reflects a younger version of his grandfather, Jin-woo reveals he modeled his avatar to look just like he did in his 50s. Seeing himself with his youthful appearance, the old man can hardly believe how realistic the project is, while the young man highlights that he is the first user to test the system. Touching his own face, the old man celebrates that he truly got his old look back and that his body no longer feels any pain. Faced with such technology, the old man asks when Jin-woo managed to research and build something so impressive. In response, the young man makes up that he got all these ideas while in a coma, and the old man questions if something like that could really be possible. Without dwelling on the subject, Jin-woo calls his grandfather to move forward, and the old man asks where they are going. Walking through the area, the young man enthusiastically replies that their goal is to go fishing. Arriving at the water's edge, the old man gazes at the area and praises the lake's impressive beauty. Right after, Jin-woo uses his magic to summon a fishing rod and a chair by the lake. Handing the gear to the old man, the young man explains that everything there works by magic and promises to simplify the system so he can use it too. Gripping the item firmly, the old man praises the rod's quality and mentions that it feels identical to his old gear. Getting ready to cast, the old man tells Jin-woo to pay close attention to see how he fishes. Then, the hook falls gently onto the crystal clear surface of the water. At that exact moment, a massive wave surges in the middle of the lake, causing a huge splash in the water. Pulling the line with force, the old man enthusiastically celebrates, announcing that he's already hooked a big fish. Holding the bent rod with determination, the old man comments in awe on how hard that creature is fighting back. Flexing his muscular arm to the limit, he prepares to show that his strength is even greater. With a single powerful yank, the old man pulls the aquatic monster out of the water, shouting that he is much stronger. Then, the huge fish flies through the air, completely stunned by the force of the pull. Soon, the gigantic creature crashes heavily onto the shore, kicking up dirt and water everywhere. As the old man asks in utter shock what that could be, Jin-woo applauds enthusiastically, congratulating his grandfather on the spectacular catch. Taking in the scene, the old man stares at his own hand in awe as he feels all the strength and vitality of his renewed body. Reflecting on the moment, the old man remembers that he had already resigned himself to the inevitable passage of time. With a clenched fist and glowing eyes, he celebrates, saying he hasn't felt so full of life in so long that he can't even remember. Bursting into euphoric laughter, the old man shows all his joy while Jin-woo watches him with a warm smile. Observing his grandfather's happiness, the boy reflects that he brought humans to protect Arsalan, but notes the positive impact of it. Concluding that this is also great, Jin-woo proposes taking a photo to capture the catch, and the old man excitedly agrees upon learning about the camera feature. Mounted on top of the giant creature, the old man strikes a pose, showing off his muscles while shouting that he is bursting with energy. With an instant flash, the image is captured, perfectly snatching the old man's radiant celebration alongside his massive achievement. Next, Jin-woo and his grandfather sit around the campfire to roast the giant fish they caught. Chewing on his food, the old man remarks in fascination that he can actually taste it and feel full, while Jin-woo wishes him a good meal. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps crunching on twigs and leaves echoes through the surrounding darkness. As he approaches, one of the patrollers observes the pair and mentions to his partner that he has never seen those people in the area. Curious, the old man asks if anyone else has logged into the game, but Jin-woo explains they are just local NPCs, leaving the guard confused by the terms. Irritated by the nonsense words, the man declares he will take those suspicious figures to the feudal lord. However, a harsh command echoing from the darkness freezes both guards in sheer terror. Unleashing his terrifying aura, the mage reveals he is escorting an important guest and orders the duo to leave immediately. As the men flee while apologizing, the old man asks if that reaction was some kind of programming bug, and the boy simply agrees to keep up the act. Impressed by the project, the old man praises his grandson's work and promises to provide all the support needed to speed up development. Thanking him for the help, Jin-woo reflects with satisfaction that backing from the group's chairman will make the process much easier. Next, the old man asks if the connection device needs to be returned now, hearing from the boy that it still needs adjustments. Wanting to stay in the game, the old man starts acting dramatic, claiming to be a sick old man, while Jin-woo fires back, reminding him he is perfectly healthy. Sighing at his persistence, the young man allows his grandfather to keep the gear for now, making the old man celebrate joyfully. With Lee Eun-seong's full support, the game's development moves forward rapidly within the company. Over time, the programming team quickly adapted to the new magic engine and began building the project's features at high speed. Additionally, the art team brought all the character visuals to life based on the script written by Tia. Looking at one of the computer screens, a female employee sighs in awe, admiring Prince Leon's design. Excited by the design, the girl tells her co-worker that he is her favorite character and that she really wants to see him in action. Curious about the possibility, the other developer asks if everyone will get to meet him in person once they enter the world of Arsalan. Upon hearing her mention that only the directors got to test the new build, Young Seon startles as he realizes he was noticed nearby. The young woman takes the chance to tease the director, saying he's always playing alone in the test room, but the man tries to justify himself by claiming he's just working. At that moment, the door to the development room suddenly opens to let the new arrivals in. Entering the room with a beaming smile, Jin-woo greets the team and is welcomed with great enthusiasm by everyone. The young CEO announces that the connection device has passed stability tests and will soon enter production. Right after, he hands the floor over to Young Seon so his colleague can share some big news with the team. Stepping forward, the director asks if the staff is familiar with the major tech event hosted by the Osung Corporation. As the team confirms, Young Seon reveals that FS Games will participate in the expo, making the employees cheer with joy. Clenching his fist with emotion, the man vents about all the criticism the company and its leadership had to endure in the past. Amidst the general excitement, the director declares to everyone that the time has come to overcome doubts and dominate the global market with their new game. Seeing the team's excitement, Jin-woo promises he will deliver advanced models to everyone after the presentation and run a major internal test. With that, the staff raise their fists in excitement and begin celebrating, chanting their leader's name. Suddenly, the young man feels his phone vibrate in his pocket and pulls out the device to check the notification. On the screen, several messages pop up from his grandfather, frantically demanding the game server be opened, explaining that his vacation started today. Right after, the old man sends another text saying he's already on his way to the company, leaving the young man anxious. Realizing this, Jin-woo announces he has an urgent matter to handle and dismisses everyone early, while the team jokes about the director's dedication. A short time later, the scene shifts to the massive convention center where the anticipated tech event will take place. Inside the venue, the crowd and numerous photographers gather excitedly in front of the expo's attractions. Watching the buzz, a tech analyst remarks to his colleague whether the gaming company will actually show something revolutionary or if it's all just a scam. Hearing the comment, his partner replies that they got everyone's attention, but points out that their business is over if the news turns out to be fake. Next, the man recalls the current limitations of virtual reality equipment and considers it impossible for full immersion tech to emerge right now. At that moment, a voice echoes over the loudspeaker, announcing the official start of the Electronics Corporation's main presentation. Stepping onto the stage, the host captures the audience's attention by announcing the entrance of a very special guest. Under enthusiastic applause, the young CEO walks elegantly to the center of the arena as his presence is announced. Facing the crowd fascinated by his arrival, Jin-woo takes the microphone and calmly introduces himself as the head of FS Games. Smiling, Jin-woo comments that he got a good laugh out of the memes and crazy rumors about him. Next, the young man assures them that while today's product isn't that extreme, it will completely exceed all expectations. With that, he extends his hand with confidence and announces that the demonstration is finally about to begin. At that exact moment, a giant wave of water appears out of nowhere and engulfs the audience, leaving everyone terrified. In shock, the audience wonders if that is the actual ocean or just some ultra-realistic special effect. Facing the aquatic landscape, Jin-woo explains that humanity conquered the oceans and set foot on every shore despite the tragedies. As the scenery shifts into a desert, the young man continues narrating that mankind crossed vast plains and eternal snow. Now surrounded by snowy mountains, he adds that courage and patience allowed them to conquer even the highest peaks. Touching the falling snow, the spectators talk in shock as they realize they can feel the real texture and cold of that place. Brushing the flakes off his coat, Jin-woo recalls that humanity conquered the skies and sent missions to the moon and Mars. Midst a vision of the universe, he ponders how wonderful it would be to explore the cosmos, but acknowledges the limits of current technology. Looking at the crowd, the young man asks if people are destined to never experience the romance of a true discovery. With a snap of his fingers, Jin-woo reveals he hasn't given up and has created a brand new world for everyone to explore. Instantly, a storm of purple energy surges from the stage, engulfing the entire auditorium before the stunned crowd. Right after, the venue's lighting completely changes, giving way to a dark sky dominated by a red moon. Facing the desolate landscape and the reddish sky, the crowd looks around, having no idea where they ended up. Terrified as the little mascot appears beside him, the photographer wonders where they are. As more little creatures hop across the terrain, the spectators scream in panic, demanding to know what's going on. Microphone in hand, Jin-woo asks for everyone's attention to make the official announcement. With great enthusiasm, the young man reveals that this is the full immersion virtual reality game called Arslan Saga. Holding the connection device, the CEO announces that early access starts in 2 weeks and that the few available units are already on sale. Right after, the official webpage goes live, displaying the high price tag and limited stock of the device. Following the announcement, the internet floods with doubts, questioning if the promise of total immersion is actually real. While many accuse the company of running a scam, others hesitate, wondering if they should take a chance on the purchase. Watching the reaction on his computer, the guy with glasses notes that despite the widespread skepticism, all units have already sold out. With his order secured, the other young man says he'll post a review as soon as access opens to see if it's all real. Next, the streamer asks his friend what they'll do if this new technology turns out to be legitimate. Adjusting his beanie, the guy replies that if so, he'll drop tech videos to focus entirely on the new game. 2 weeks later, the scenery finally shifts to the sunny world of Arslan, under the flight of dragons. Looking up at the sky with a satisfied smile, Jin-woo awaits the arrival of the new visitors. Holding his staff in the middle of the forest, the wizard declares that the heroes of Earth are finally coming. With a big smile, Hagod the tavern keeper welcomes the visitor and introduces himself as the owner of the tavern. Suddenly, Tia interrupts the scene, shouting for them to stop acting immediately. Pointing at the man, the elf complains that his performance is way too stiff and demands a more cheerful attitude. Tia then adds that a tavern owner needs to have a big belly, ordering him to eat 6 meals a day from now on. Turning to Thompson the blacksmith, the girl asks if he has memorized all his lines and orders them to start the scene. Playing his part, the blacksmith gestures with his hammer and scoffs, saying the upgrade failed and all materials were lost, while the writer demands even more sarcasm. Seeing this, the assistant questions the need for failures with such a high success rate, but the elf explains that it builds immersion and makes sense with the game's lore. As he watches the rehearsals closely, Jinwoo praises the group's performance, and Tia cheerfully greets him as soon as she notices him. The mage then asks if the magic tower is working properly, hearing from the writer that they can generate up to 10,000 bodies at once for the new warriors. Considering the limited resources, the young man ponders that mana crystals are the real bottleneck and that they'll need to solve that issue. With that, he reflects that there's no need to rush, and that they will reclaim the eroded territory bit by bit alongside the first batch of heroes. Watching the movement around them, Jinwoo notices how much the atmosphere has changed and concludes that hope has brought the people back to life. When he asks if there are any other problems, the girl tells him they still haven't found a knight to play the role of Leon. When Jinwoo suggests picking anyone who is good with a sword, the writer insists that the protagonist must be in matchless beauty. Analyzing the situation, Jinwoo recognizes that most local knights look like tough veterans, far from being handsome young men. The writer then emphasizes that Prince Leon needs to be at the center of the story to engage players and make them hate the erosion. Wondering if there really is no other option, Jinwoo hears from the girl that there actually is a way. Right at that moment, an imposing figure approaches, prompting the young man to call her by the name Tyrus. Slyly smiling, Tia suggests creating the ideal body for the master to pilot, but he shoots it down, saying that's just her own whim. Thinking it over, Jinwoo admits it's not a bad idea, and proposes creating the initial model based on concept art. To the mage's surprise, the writer proudly reveals she has already finished the job and invites him to follow her. Entering the massive hall, they encounter dozens of sculpted bodies scattered around in static poses. Looking at her surroundings, Tyrus comments on how creepy the place still is, and wonders if all those models are just dummies. The girl then leans in closer to inspect one of the figures after noticing a very peculiar detail. Charmed by a small miniature version, the elf gushes over how cute it is, while Tia explains she designed that replica of the master specifically for hugging. Squishing the small model's cheeks, Tyrus enthusiastically begs Jinwoo to use that body at least once, but the young man flatly refuses. Faced with his companion's complaints about wanting to shower him with affection, the boy fires back that too much affection is precisely the problem. Cutting the conversation short, the writer points to a cloth-covered structure and announces that the real body of Leon is right there. Hearing a solemn warning echo through the room telling them to brace themselves, Jinwoo curiously asks what the alert is for. With a triumphant smile, the elf pulls back the fabric to reveal her creation, declaring she has finally achieved perfection. As the cloth falls, a blinding light reveals the radiant body, hailed by her as a divine, otherworldly beauty. Faced with such brilliance, Jinwoo and Tyrus recoil in shock, trying to shield their eyes from the dazzling light. Amid the glare, the figure of the perfect knight emerges, resting on his throne before the stunned group. Looking at the creation, the girl swallows hard, completely spellbound by the figure's sheer presence. Overcome with pride, Tia celebrates, saying the result exceeded all expectations, detailing that she used dragon bones and magical fibers to make it invincible. The writer adds that she spent every last penny commissioning the armor from the finest dwarven blacksmiths using Helby's scales. Hearing that name, a bewildered Jinwoo wonders how that terrifying monster could have given up its scales without a fight to the death. Without dwelling on the topic, the mage settles into his throne and announces he's going to test the link with the new creation. With that, a powerful surge of magical energy bursts between the thrones, binding the two figures together. Watching the process in silence, both elves follow the transfer, mesmerized by the intensity of the magic. A second later, the vessel slowly opens its eyes, showing that the connection has been successfully established. Meanwhile, in Seoul, there are only 10 minutes left until the game's official launch. On her livestream, the famous content creator excitedly shows off the new VR device to her subscribers. She explains to her audience that she opted for the standard version out of fear that the project might be a massive scam. Putting the headset on, the young woman is surprised to see the chat messages floating right in front of her eyes with total ease. Checking the digital clock on the display, the streamer notes that it's finally 10 o'clock, the scheduled launch time. She then informs everyone on the stream that the computer screen has now unlocked the option to start the connection. Adjusting the headset, the girl states she'll log in first to test whether this virtual reality is the real deal or just a fraud. Pressing the side button on the device, the young woman excitedly announces she's logging in. With that, the streamer jumps back in surprise, wondering what's happening as a blinding light fills the room. Overwhelmed by the intense flash, she lets out a scream as her body is transferred by the system. In another world, the tower's massive mana crystal lights up to mark the arrival of the first player. Noticing the signal, the tower mage announces the arrival of the first hero and orders everyone to begin the procedure. Slowly rubbing her eyes, the young woman tries to recover from the sudden brightness after her trip. Floating in the middle of a starry expanse, the streamer looks around, wondering where she just ended up. Noticing the chat window floating beside her, she tells her viewers in total shock that she's actually inside virtual reality. Looking at the interactive panel in front of her, she realizes she's in the character creation room and decides to check out the options. Scanning the interface, she explains to her audience that the playable races are humans, elves, dwarves, and orcs. Without hesitation, she picks the elf race, calling it the prettiest, and giggles while tweaking her body proportions. With customization complete, the new warrior finally steps onto the grassy fields of Arsalan to begin her journey. Thrilled with her new look, she tells everyone to check her out, celebrating the fact that she's now an elf. Right after, a system prompt warns that her character's agility was reduced due to her exaggerated body proportions, while viewers laugh in the chat. Walking toward the distant buildings, the young woman wonders if this place really is Arsalan. Completely blown away by the realism, the streamer gushes about how much she's loving the experience, while her audience praises the game's incredible visuals. Still in shock from being inside VR, she wonders in confusion which way she should go. Just then, a warrior approaches from behind, pointing toward the starting village to guide the new player. Turning around to face him, the streamer's eyes go wide, completely stunned by the figure standing before her. With a warm smile, the knight asks if she'd like some company if she doesn't know the way. He then officially introduces himself, revealing that his name is Leon. Arriving at the village of Event, the newcomers find a bustling location filled with new visitors exploring the area. Experiencing such incredible immersion, some players celebrate by hailing Li Jinwu as a god, inviting others to form a party and level up together. Right nearby, a guy acts out being transported during a battle to the death, prompting another player to ask if he's role-playing a story character. Watching the commotion around her, the streamer comments on how impressed she is by the crowd while keeping up with the excitement on her stream. Not quite sure where to start exploring the village, the girl decides to ask one of the local guards for directions. Approaching cheerfully, the young woman politely greets the guard, who catches her off guard by welcoming her as a hero. Trying to keep his composure, the man clears his throat and reminds himself to act natural, just like they practiced. The guard then welcomes her to the village and asks for her name first. Realizing this is the registration step, the streamer throws up a peace sign and announces her handle will be Habiol. Right after, the girl excitedly celebrates seeing her name pop up on screen, completely ignoring the warning about reduced agility. Suspicious of how realistic the interaction is, Habiol asks if he might be another player, but hearing him repeat a canned line, she realizes he's a game NPC. She then asks if he has any quests for her, and the man praises her for already seeking out heroic duties. Pointing toward the town's massive building, the guard directs her to the Adventurers Guild, and Habiol thanks him for the help. Reading chat comments, asking to see the handsome guy from earlier again, the streamer agrees with her audience. Recalling the moment they parted ways at the village entrance, Habiol notes that Leon didn't seem like an ordinary player, but rather a main story character. With that, Habiol tells her stream she's bound to run into the knight again if she keeps doing quests. Watching everything from high above, Jinwu notes with satisfaction that the reception to the warrior was great, which will make his companion thrilled. The young man then decides to scan the crowd to see if any of those players possess useful traits. He reflects that these aptitudes are the very essence of the soul accumulated over a lifetime, and using them correctly will speed up the summoned one's growth. Scanning most of the newcomers, Jinwu notices that the vast majority only have low-tier aptitudes. Suddenly, something catches the master's attention as he senses a different aura among those present. The young man is blown away to discover the girl possesses a rare high-level affinity aptitude. Analyzing her, Jinwoo concludes that her years of live streaming were responsible for shaping that unique talent. He ponders that this ability extends to magical elements as well, and developing it will be crucial against the erosion. Meanwhile, the streamer finally reaches the imposing adventurers' guild building in town. Pushing open the heavy front door, the girl curiously asks if this place is really the guild hall. Stepping into an elegant and lively hall, Haebyul gasps in admiration at how beautiful the place is. Right then, an enthusiastic voice startles her, welcoming the arrival of the new hero. With a huge smile, Tia officially introduces herself as the receptionist and warmly greets the player. Dazzled by the welcome, Haebyul covers her mouth in delight while her stream viewers rave about how gorgeous the receptionist is. Explaining the rules, Tia invites the player to register for starter gear, and Haebyul eagerly accepts, asking to sign up right away. Meanwhile, her stream viewers flood the chat praising the elf's beauty, comparing her to an absolute angel. The receptionist then fills out the official registration document to formalize the new adventurer's sign-up. Placing a large bag on the counter, the clerk explains she is now an Iron Tier warrior, detailing the starter supplies and telling her to pick up her beginner weapon right next door. Touched by the gifts, the girl thanks the elf and gets a gentle head pat, leaving her stream audience dying of jealousy. Watching the bustling scene from high above the city, Jinwoo grips his staff as he tracks the flow of new warriors. Through magic communication, Tia comments to the mage about how cute the girl is, admitting she wants to tease her during her journey. As the clerk gushes about how she can't wait to see her cry tears of joy, Jinwoo dryly replies that she hasn't met the veteran players yet. Confused by his warning, the girl is startled by the heavy sound of stomping footsteps echoing through the hall. Suddenly, a buff player with a bizarre avatar bursts in shouting, complaining about how boring this world is and demanding food and drinks from the waiter. Confronted with such bizarre behavior, the elf freezes completely, unable to process what's happening right in front of her. Seeing even more weird figures pouring in, Tia cries out to her master for help, but Jinwoo just wishes her good luck and cuts the spell. With chaos breaking out in the guild, the girl screams in desperation, begging players to stop eating quest posters and rolling down the stairs. Moments later, a system notification reveals that confusing the receptionist grants a special title, prompting players to group up just to troll her even more. Lacking the strength to deal with the mess, the elf collapses onto the floor, completely exhausted and utterly ruined by the chaos. Even amid the total mayhem, Tia vows to herself that she will make sure to witness the exact moment those heroes fall into tears of despair. With a sinister smile, the elf thinks she can endure any absurdity as long as it guarantees the success of her grand tragedy. Meanwhile, in the real world, countless news headlines announce that the virtual reality game is real and that a new era has begun. An influencer appears bowing publicly, apologizing for ever doubting Lee Jinwoo and spreading baseless criticism. Shortly after, news broadcasts around the world air special reports celebrating the massive global hit the project has become. Faced with this reality, business executives scramble into emergency meetings, realizing they'll be left behind if they don't jump on the new technology immediately. A week after the launch of Arslan Saga, Jinwoo arrives at the office, cheerfully greeting his team with a bright good morning. Welcoming him, his secretary asks if he noticed the fleet of protest and support trucks parked outside the office building. Jinwoo calmly replies to his development director that he did see plenty of vehicles lined up out there today. Laughing at the situation, Youngseon remarks that even their newest hire had to unplug his phone due to the endless flood of calls begging for a device. Next, the young CEO announces that he will keep the second pre-sale on schedule, making 50,000 new units of the device available. Reflecting in silence, Jinwoo considers that this number of warriors will be enough to handle the initial containment of the erosion. As he instructs the team to prepare the main story update, the young man gets the staff cheering by announcing Prince Leon's debut. Thrilled by the news, the employees present proposals for themed merch featuring the knight, such as keychains, cushions, and minifigures. Meanwhile, already logged into Leon's body in front of a mirror, the guy wonders out of curiosity if his character is truly that popular. Looking at his own reflection, the young man admits that the knight's appearance is indeed incredibly attractive. Seeing the elf pop up praising his narcissism, Jinwoo gets startled and demands that she knock on the door before coming in. Approaching him, the writer begins reciting dramatic lines about the traveler's melancholic gaze, making the guy question why she's role-playing right there. Faced with his companion's over-the-top performance, he steps back, confused by so much dramatic commitment at that moment. Staring at him closely with an intense look, Tia doubles down on the speech about the traveler scarred by tragedy. Practicing his acting surrounded by a romantic atmosphere, the knight asks if the heroine would hear his story, earning praise from the writer to keep that same tone. Already exhausted by the situation, Jinwoo asks about suitable hunting areas for the warriors to level up, hearing from the girl that the best spots are in the corroded lands. Lost in thought, the master ponders that he'll need to borrow something from a certain someone, leaving the elf puzzled by his intentions. Then, heavy footsteps slowly advance across a dark, desolate ground. Atop the cliffs, a figure watches storms of dark energy rising on the horizon. Above the devastated wasteland, the crimson moon shines brightly beneath a sky consumed by darkness. Facing this threat, Jinwoo casts his shield to hold back the violent surges of dark energy. Withstanding the impact, the young man remarks that this place is just as terrifying as always. Raising his staff, Jinwoo sarcastically complains that no one came out to welcome their visitor. Next, the youth fires a beam of magic, announcing he's just knocking on the door to get some service. With the explosion, a dark voice echoes through the air, noting that the mage has finally decided to show up. Emerging from the darkness, the creature sneers, saying it already knew he was there, even without all that noise. Revealing its eye-covered body, the Lord of Erosion asks if Jinwoo has finally come to hand over his soul. In response, the villain taunts him, recalling how the priests and holy knights were defeated in the past and turned into slaves of the core. The young man remembers that's why he fought alone for so long in a solitary battle that ended in defeat. Faced with this, the Lord of Erosion tells Jinwoo to accept his fate and asks how long that fragile shield will protect him. Hearing the provocation, the youth simply offers a silent smirk. Bothered by his reaction, the monster asks what's so funny, but Jinwoo merely replies that he pities him. Pointing his finger firmly, Jinwoo explains that the Lord of Erosion is completely unable to move from the center of his own territory. He then adds that the monster would need to consume more land to evolve, but for now, he remains utterly trapped there. Furious, the monster asks if he came all this way just to mock him, but Jinwoo calmly replies that he's definitely not free enough to waste time like that. Looking around, the youth remarks that what he's searching for must be nearby. Spotting a camp full of creatures in the valley below, he claims he's finally found them. Information soon pops up revealing that those creatures are level 10 goblins, completely consumed by erosion. Laughing at the situation, the villain warns that destroying them is useless, as the creatures will quickly regenerate within the corrupted zone. Holding his staff firmly, Jinwoo agrees that would be a problem if he were acting alone. With that, the young man thrusts his weapon into the ground, activating a powerful magic circle around himself. An immense beam of light then rises toward the sky, covering the entire region. Raising his hand, the youth triggers spatial magic with a quick snap of his fingers. Instantly, the magic engulfs the goblins in the camp and begins teleporting them elsewhere. Directing the energy toward the horizon, he completes the creature's transfer. Shocked by what he just witnessed, the Lord of Erosion asks if that was spatial magic and demands to know what he intends to do. Waving goodbye, Jinwoo tells him he's just borrowing the monsters and suggests the villain restock his inventory. The youth then adds that the monster has now become the mid-boss of the game's first episode, saying he expects a great performance. Before walking away, the mage suddenly stops as he remembers one more detail. With a firm gesture, Jinwoo declares that since he borrowed something, he ought to pay it back. Hearing these words, the monster is left completely bewildered, failing to understand what the youth means. With a provocative smirk, the young man makes a dismissive gesture and tells the creature to keep the change. Consumed by extreme rage, the villain screams, calling the mage a miserable bastard. Hurling his attacks against the protective shield, the monster shrieks that he'll kill him, ordering the youth to get back there immediately. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to a peaceful forest beneath a clear, sunny sky. Walking through the area, players celebrate finally getting a real goblin hunting quest, believing the monsters drop rare swords. As they press forward, one of the warriors warns that the enemies could appear at any moment. Suddenly, a dark mist sweeps over the area, causing the party to stop in surprise. Looking up at the sky, Habiol finds the sudden darkness strange and asks her companions what's going on. Right after, a misshapen purple paw steps heavily onto the ground. At that exact moment, a horde of purple goblins charges forward, roaring, leading the adventurers to identify the creatures. Noticing the enemy's color and size, The group wonders if it could be an elite-level monster. With its eyes glowing intensely, the giant goblin lets out a deafening roar right in front of the adventurers. Undeterred, the young man draws his sword, claiming it's just a pathetic beast and promising to take it down in a few strikes. However, the creature leaps from above with extreme agility, catching the warrior completely off guard. Barely having time to react, the youth panics as he realizes the monster is far too fast for his movements. In the blink of an eye, the beast lands a precise blow that cuts right through the adventurer's defense. From the impact, the boy's body collapses onto the ground, leaving his companions in absolute shock. Outraged by the sight, the mage yells at the creatures and triggers a powerful fireball to strike them. Right after, a massive explosion of flames engulfs the area, covering the field in overwhelming heat. Watching the smoke with a confident grin, the young man excitedly asks if they finally managed to defeat the enemy. However, the beast bursts through the smokescreen at blazing speed, completely unharmed. Without giving him time to react, the monster hits the youth with a devastating attack that makes him groan in pain. Seeing her partners fall, Habyol steps back trembling, asking in panic if they really just died. Staring into the beast's bloodthirsty eyes, the girl gloomily realizes that this is no ordinary goblin and that they stand no chance of winning. With that, the pack charges furiously toward her while she desperately tries to prepare a final defense. Closing her eyes in pure terror, the player lets out a desperate scream before the imminent threat. Suddenly, a gleaming trail of light slices through the air in a radiant beam before the claws can reach her. Appearing at the exact right moment, Leon rushes forward with his blade, delivering a crushing blow to protect the young girl. From the force of the strike, the beast is sliced in half, letting out one final squeal of surprise. Wiping her eyes in shock, the player stares in disbelief at the figure standing before her. Offering a faint smile, Leon remarks to the young girl that they've met again. The knight then gently turns to her and asks if she's all right. The narrator compares that body's structure to the most luxurious watches in the world, whose complex parts work in perfect harmony. Designed by master craftsmen, these components operate without a single flaw to prove their immense value. In the same way, Leon's body was built as a piece of extreme precision. With that, Tyrus reveals she poured all her dedication into combining 24 high-level enchantments into a flawless structure. Among the active spells on the knight, notable ones include Flawless Perfection, a glowing aura that adapts to others' emotions, and an extraordinarily pleasant scent. Shielding her eyes from the intense light, the girl expresses her shock at just how dazzling that warrior is. Prompted by a viewer telling her to stop drooling, Habyol lightly slaps her own face, saying she needs to pull herself together. Even though the streamer insists she's completely fine, Leon insists on casting a healing spell to ensure her safety. As soon as the glowing energy surrounds her, the young woman gasps in surprise at the impact of the enchantment. Looking at her own hands, she realizes she wasn't injured at all, yet feels a wave of immense vitality surging through her body. Right after, Habyol alerts her viewers about a generous donation from a subscriber who confessed their love for the knight. Excited by the amount, the streamer announces a special celebration. She will blink 10 times in a row. Watching the sudden performance, the young man lets out a hesitant murmur, completely baffled by her behavior. Facing the awkward situation, Leon sighs softly, lamenting the streamer's over-the-top antics. Placing his hand on her head, Leon insists she must be hurt and offers to heal her right away, but she reassures him that she's perfectly fine. Next, a quest prompt pops up on her stream, offering cash if she performs an embarrassing dance. As more donations flood in with the same request, Habyol flatly refuses, claiming she would never humiliate herself like that. Noticing her hesitation, Jinwoo decides to step in and play a little prank on her. Moments later, a massive donation from the Archmage flashes on screen, doubling down on the challenge and leaving Habyol utterly shocked by the insane amount. Unable to resist such a huge payout, she hesitates for a second before raising her hands to do the requested moves. Happy and embarrassed right in front of Leon, the streamer begins performing the bunny dance for her live audience. Continuing the cringe-worthy performance, she completes the moves while trying her best to hide her embarrassment. Covering her face in sheer mortification, Habyol begs the knight not to look at her like that, venting about the overwhelming power of money. Keeping his gentle tone, Leon suggests heading to a safe temple to get her head checked, making the streamer cry out that she really isn't hurt. As the hilarious moment comes to an end, the clip quickly becomes the most watched video of the year across the entire platform. Shortly after, Habyol follows the knight through the night forest, silently admiring his elegant figure. Suddenly, Leon stops in his tracks along the trail and looks back, sensing they are close to their destination. Turning around with a radiant smile, the warrior announces they've finally arrived and cautions her to watch her step on the stairs. Blushing deeply at his kindness, Haebyul thanks him for his concern, while the stream chat floods with praise for the knight. Reassuring her, the knight guarantees the goblins won't be able to follow them this far. Bowing in gratitude for the rescue, Haebyul finally introduces herself properly to the young man, who identifies himself as the traveler Leon. Gazing at the horizon, he explains that he travels to investigate the erosion and discovered corrupted monsters prowling the area. When Haebyul asks if the beast's purple glow comes from this evil, the warrior confirms it is part of a terrible ongoing conspiracy. Focusing his senses, the young man activates his magic to assess the girl's potential. Confirming that Haebyul possesses a high-level affinity, he concludes she might be the key to the expedition force. Reaching out his hand, Leon admits his strength alone isn't enough and asks for her help to defeat the creatures. Instantly, a main quest notification pops up on her screen, inviting the streamer to form a subjugation force. Stunned by the alert, the player realizes she has just unlocked the highly anticipated main storyline. Watching other adventurers busy gathering herbs, she wonders if it will really be possible to rally 200 players for the task. Clenching her fist with resolve, Haebyul decides she will give it her absolute all, simply because the request came directly from him. With a firm gesture, the streamer takes the knight's hand to seal their pact. Blushing furiously, she enthusiastically vows to do everything in her power to succeed. After handing over the quest to Haebyul, Jinwoo continues acting under the guise of Leon, rushing off to provide backup for other players. Charging at the monsters to assist the hunt, the warrior receives heartfelt thanks from the adventurers saved by his blade. Afterward, Leon praises the amount of herbs gathered by a young girl, commenting that even experts would be impressed, sending her into a state of euphoria. Right after, he hands over a bag filled with potions and items as a small token of appreciation for everyone's support. Surprised by the generosity, a warrior asks Leon if he's sure about giving it all away without keeping anything for himself. With a bright smile, the knight generously replies that it's no trouble at all, since he still has all of them by his side. Following this, the online community fills with touching stories about how Leon's character has begun inspiring people in the real world. In one post, a girl shares how she found the courage to step out of her room after remembering him calling her a hero. Opening her door, the young woman was reunited with her emotional mother in a tearful hug of reconciliation. Determined to turn her life around, the player promises to get a job, pay off her debts, and take care of new heroes arriving in Arsalan. Following the backlash from his computer, Jinwoo concludes with satisfaction that all the effort was worth it, and the expedition force will gather soon. Determined to move forward with preparations, the master considers that it's time to speed up his plans a bit. Walking with firm steps up the staircase, the young mage returns to the Magic Tower's grand hall. Moments later, the heavy doors slowly swing open, granting him passage. Facing the immense hall illuminated by magical devices, he approaches the center where the system operates. Noticing his arrival, Tyrus respectfully greets him, confirming her master's presence. When asked about the status of the control device, the elf informs Jinwoo that the link to the tower is seamless enough to run everything from there. Pleased with the response, the mage states he can feel the energy of the erosion core through that makeshift core. Next, Jinwoo calculates that frequent goblin spawns will speed up the formation of the subjugation force. With that, the master orders Tia to bring Hasman, Halon, and the key inhabitants, while the elf agrees and asks for the reason behind the summon. Flashing a mysterious smirk, Jinwoo announces that the time has come for everyone to carry out a crucial mission. With a provocative glance, the young man reveals that their task will be to turn into the game's goblins. Approaching with enthusiasm, the servants ask if they were summoned and assure him they'll do anything to help Arsalan, prompting Jinwoo to ask them to sit down and back up a bit. Eager to know the quest, the servant offers to help with all his heart, but the master lets him know he'll explain everything once Tia arrives. As he looks around, the young man is interrupted by the girl announcing she's already right there beside him. Turning around to face the elf's terrifying glare, Jinwoo gets a huge fright, unable to understand her reaction. Catching his breath, the mage complains about her popping up out of nowhere and giving him such a scare. Looking at the girl collapsed on the couch, Jinwoo asks if something happened to make her look like that. Weakly laughing with her face pressed into the cushions, the writer sarcastically asks if he really didn't know what happened. Outraged, the girl vents about the Magic Tower creating useless titles just because players spend all their time making fun of her. Shouting out of her mind, Tia complains about all the crazy things visitors pull at the guild, while Jinwoo tries to calm her down. Firmly pointing her finger, the writer demands the young man stop wasting precious mana crystals on this kind of nonsense, making him apologize right away. Shifting the focus of the conversation, the young man points to Halon and Hasman and asks what happened to the pair. With a sad expression, Hasman laments that heroes suspect him just by looking at his face, even when he's just standing still. Halon then admits to facing the same problem, constantly being mistaken for the final boss by newcomers. Facing the general gloom of the team gathered in the room, Jinwoo remains silent with nothing to say. Curious about the summons, Tia asks why they're there, prompting the master to ask Tyrus why she didn't inform them beforehand. Reaching out his hand with a peculiar object, Jinwoo instructs the girl to take the device. Curious, Tia asks what it is, and the mage explains it's a controller to command the goblins and help the heroes gain combat experience. Furious, the writer cries, complaining that it's too cruel to control filthy creatures just to be beaten up by heroes, but the young man stresses this will help speed up the creation of the subjugation force. Then, the young man clarifies that it's actually the visitors who will be defeated, urging her to go all out since their souls can respawn. Smirking mischievously, the elf accepts the challenge and declares the warriors dead, leaving Jinwoo doubting what he just heard. Examining the device in her hands, the girl asks how to use it, and her master steps up to explain how it works. Pointing to the object on the table, Jinwoo details how the buttons control movement and actions, while the tower handles the rest. Next, the young man reaches out, letting her know he'll project the screen so she can give it a test run. Pressing the buttons a bit hesitantly, the young woman asks if she's doing it right. Noticing the goblin running across the minimap on screen, the girl cheers excitedly as she sees the creature move. Finding the system fascinating, the writer listens to Jinwoo praise her talent, promising to taunt the heroes until they gather a massive raid force. Seeing the others ask if it's fun, the elf replies that it feels great to control a mindless puppet. Clearing his throat loudly, the servant claims he has plenty of free time and a knack for tactics, prompting the master to hand out controllers for everyone to try. Settling onto the couch together, the allies get hyped, discovering new controls and celebrating the fun of playing multiplayer. Laughing at the ugly faces of the monsters on screen, the group jokes that the goblins' looks make them feel better about themselves, while Jinwoo just watches in silence. With an amused look, Jinwoo frames the scene with his hands to capture the moment. With a bright flash, a photo of his servants and companions smiling together is captured. Right after, the saved image becomes the young man's new phone wallpaper. Looking at the screen with a faint smile, Jinwoo feels deeply satisfied with his team's harmony. The mage reflects that once the players defeat the corrupted goblins, they will finally realize the gravity of the erosion invasion. Placing the device on the dinner table back on Earth, Jinwoo concludes that this will be the perfect time to start the second pre-order batch. Suddenly, a hand slams a spoon hard against the table, cutting off his thoughts. In an abrupt move, his relatives stand up, staring at Jinwoo in absolute shock and tension. With dead serious expressions, the family remains silent without saying a single word. Then, the old man and the other relatives march out of the room with heavy steps, leaving a thick aura behind. Frozen with the spoon still in his hand, Jinwoo wonders in complete bewilderment what on earth just happened. A short time later in Arsalan, a warrior shouts ecstatically, calling everyone to form a party to slay the goblins. Around him, several players protest furiously over losing their loot, rallying the crowd for revenge. Looking over the main plaza, Jinwoo watches in total disbelief at the sheer chaos breaking out among the adventurers. Confronted with such madness, the young mage asks himself in shock what is going on with this place. With that, one of the player-controlled goblins leaps forward with a club, letting out a loud war cry. In the middle of combat, a warrior calls for support, while his teammate prepares an attack spell. However, the player raises his shield in shock as the creature hurls a fireball right at him. Stunned by the enemy's agility, the guy gasps, unable to comprehend how that was even possible. Taking advantage of the opening, the monster lands a crushing blow on its opponent while mocking the attack. Gripping the controller with an evil grin, Tia laughs hysterically, celebrating the slaughter of the adventurers. Seeing his servants celebrate their flawless combo, Jinwoo remarks that he knew the mess in town was their doing. With deep, dark circles and a manic look in her eyes, Tia notices her master and greets him with wild excitement. Taking in the pitiful state of the group on the couch, the young man wonders if they've been pulling an all-nighter gaming binge. Hand on his chin, the mage ponders that the team seems far more invested in trolling the players than actually helping them. Hearing the elf cheer over another fallen warrior, the master confirms they are truly out to punish humanity. Stepping closer to the screen, Jinwoo notices the goblin's stats have updated while the girl keeps laughing. Soon, the game interface reveals that the creatures have earned the title of hero killers after wiping out player after player. Staring at the pile of bodies displayed on the panel, the young man wonders in utter shock just how many players they've killed. At that moment, Hosman reminds the writer that it's time to execute the main part of the mission. With that, the controlled creature moves its foot over the fallen adventurer on the ground. Then, the monster mockingly teabags right on the defeated player's chest. Soon, the creature starts crouching up and down repeatedly over the body, humiliating its opponent. Watching this unfold, the warriors point in utter shock, screaming in outrage at the monster's absurd taunt. Laughing maniacally, Tia taunts the adventurers, asking what they're gonna do about it and mocking that they can't do a thing. Watching from behind, Jinwoo stares in disbelief, wondering where on earth they learned to do that. Though surprised, the master chuckles, reflecting that at least all that disrespect is getting the heroes super motivated. Sure enough, the strategy works better than expected, and the warriors raise their weapons, determined to fight back. Shortly after, the raid force forms up in the square much faster than Jinwoo had anticipated. Adjusting his gauntlet on his vessel, Leon declares with a confident look that now the real game begins. With his cape billowing in the wind, the knight steps forward firmly into the grand hall prepared for battle. Looking ahead with fierce resolve, Leon asks with a smile if everyone is ready to move out. Looking at his companion, the blacksmith asks Uragom if he really intends to push that gear enhancement to the absolute limit. Losing patience with the delay, the warrior announces he's ready and tells the craftsman to start the process right away. Raising his hammer with full force, the blacksmith taunts his customer, saying he wants to see if he'll keep that same confidence when it's over. With a precise strike on the shield, the craftsman hits the piece, making sparks fly from its structure upon impact. Immediately after, a radiant beam consumes the entire surface of the gear while the enhancement magic takes effect. To the customer's utter despair, the blacksmith chuckles mockingly, announcing that his hand slipped and the enhancement failed. Devastated by the result, Uragom cries out loud over the lost item level, while the old man mockingly remarks he's lucky the piece didn't get destroyed. Approaching the scene, Habiel questions if he's really risking gear enhancements right before the expedition, only to have the shaken warrior beg her for comfort. Without hiding her judgment, the girl calls him an adrenaline junkie, reminding him he had barely reached that level after 20 failed attempts. Laughing uncontrollably, Uragom argues that the odds were low and claims he needs an even bigger challenge to stay motivated. Seizing the moment, the blacksmith taunts the adventurer, asking if he's going to quit right there and mocking his lack of courage as a hero. Determined to try again, the young man wagers his entire fortune on the next attempt, while the elf warns him about the risk of ending up without gear before the march. Suddenly, a commanding voice calls out for Habiel, making the player turn around immediately to see who is approaching. Wearing a warm smile, Leon walks toward the party and comments on how much the young girl has grown since their last meeting. Excited by the knight's presence, Habiel asks the reason for his visit and listens as he explains he came to inspect the village before they depart for the subjugation mission. With a gentle look, the knight explains that since he personally requested the expedition, he wanted to see if he could help the heroes in any way. Suddenly, the warrior bursts in shouting for Leon, giving the archer a massive jump scare with the sudden interruption. Desperate, Uragom begs for help, while the knight, caught off guard, asks who the young man is. Habiel then explains that he's the party's defender and reveals that the guy is completely addicted to gear enhancements. A bit confused, Leon asks how he could possibly help, and the warrior simply asks him to stand right there next to him as a lucky charm. Hyped up, Uragom calls out to the blacksmith to start the process and gets immediate confirmation from Thompson. With that, the guy clasps his hands in prayer behind Leon as the craftsman gets into position to strike the shield. Raising his tool with all his might, Thompson lands a precise blow on the iron piece. With a devastating impact, a crackling shockwave ripples across the entire workbench. Moments later, a massive, gleaming pillar rises from the gear, catching everyone in the room completely by surprise. Soon, the shield lights up completely, confirming the success of the high-level upgrade. Buzzing with joy, Uragom cheers loudly for achieving the first enhancement of that level on the entire server. Bowing repeatedly, the warrior thanks Leon for the result, while the knight laughs, saying it was no big deal. Showcasing the piece, the guy mocks Habiel, asking if she can even see it, driving her mad with the taunt. Right after, an on-screen notification reveals that a massive reward was earned from the feat, leaving the streamer in shock. At this, the archer shakes the knight, begging him to touch her bow just once, and the guy gently agrees, wishing her luck on the attempt. Immediately after, the blacksmith strikes a powerful blow on the piece, while the player prays for the enhancement's success. With the positive result confirmed on screen, the girl screams in euphoria, unable to believe her weapon reached max level. As the archer jumps for joy, declaring her love for the young man, another warrior shyly approaches, calling out to him. At that moment, a crowd of adventurers surrounds the guy, begging him to bless their weapons as well. With a friendly smile, Leon replies that it's no trouble at all, leaving the craftsman completely terrified in the background. With a playful look, the knight tells the old man to enjoy the task, while the blacksmith cries out for help in a panic. Shortly after, a long line forms in the workshop as the crowd cheers for a seamless streak of successful upgrades. When all the work is done, Thompson collapses onto a crate, completely exhausted after draining all his energy. Walking through the square, Leon modestly attributes the result to the craftsman's talent, while the former record holder laments that his title has lost its value. Suddenly, a lively bard appears strumming his instrument, celebrating upon learning that the party's upgrades worked out. Then, the musician approaches the group and asks if they'd like to hear the special song he composed for the occasion. Hearing the out-of-tune music, the knight asks if they know him, and Habiol explains that the kid simply tagged along with the party. She adds that whenever the bard is around, his terrible music makes the corrupted goblins flee in terror. Realizing this, Leon remembers Tia's sensitive hearing and finally understands why the elf has been so spacey lately. Observing the musician's aura, Leon muses in surprise that the color of that soul looks strangely familiar. Recalling the rainbow hue of his brother's energy, the young man immediately wonders if that kid could be his relative. Looking closely, the master analyzes the boy's panel and notices he holds an unshakable dream of becoming a big star. Noticing his distraction, Habiol asks if something is wrong, but the knight quickly replies that it's nothing. Just ahead, an imposing female warrior demands leadership of the expedition, ordering the other hunter to quietly follow her lead. Taunting his rival, the man sarcastically remarks that hunting dogs usually go first and accepts the terms, infuriating the girl with his nerve. With a dark smirk, the hunter guild master tells his opponent to stop barking, threatening to cook anyone who makes noise. Furious at the provocation, the Valhalla guild leader challenges her rival, asking if he'd prefer to settle their dispute right then and there. Stepping into the confrontation, Leon asks the heroes to calm down and suggests they save all that energy to fight the goblins. Looking closely at the duo, the knight suddenly realizes those faces are also very familiar to him. Taking a closer look at their features, Jinwoo is shocked to recognize that those two warriors are actually his grandfather and his sister. The young man remembers how sweet she used to be in the real world, always cooking meals and showing off cute photos. Faced with her aggressive stance and loud yelling, the young man wonders in disbelief how his sister became such a brute. Shifting his focus, the knight muses in awe at how the two have already managed to found their own guilds. Reflecting on the massive amount of points required for that, Jinwoo wonders if the rival group is actually playing by the rules. Noticing the young man's arrival, the surrounding adventurers cheer enthusiastically, announcing Leon's presence at the scene. In response to the crowd's shouts, one of the warriors declares they all gathered there to defeat the goblins in response to his and Habiol's request. With her hands over her chest, the girl thanks him for answering the call, hearing in response that it was a privilege to help the warriors. Faced with such a warm reception, players begin shouting their usernames and guild titles to show support for the mission. Right after, the adventurers cheer in surprise upon hearing the knight address each of them directly by their in-game names. Looking at the gathered crowd, Leon praises everyone's growth and states that it would be an immense honor to fight alongside such heroes. With fists raised high, the crowd responds euphorically, accepting the invitation to march together against the enemy. Flashing a faint smile, the warrior approves of everyone's determination and announces that it's time to head into battle. Accompanied by the entire expedition force, Leon strides purposefully toward the village's main gates. Positioned near the town exit, Heine calls upon the Knights of Adent in a loud voice to pay their respects. Raising their blades toward the sky, the handmaid orders the entire guard to salute the march of the new heroes. With a firm step against the stone ground, the knight leads the troops' first step toward the corrupted territory. Guiding the massive column of warriors, Leon advances at the head of the army to officially kick off the Great Subjugation campaign. Led by Leon, the adventurers march with steady steps toward uncharted territory. Awestruck by the surrounding landscape, the warrior excitedly remarks how incredible the view is. Taking advantage of the brief pause, another adventurer offers a drink, suggesting they celebrate the journey. Inspired by the scenery, The bard announces he must compose a new song right away, while his companion begs him not to make up any more weird tunes. Watching the relaxed group, Leon ponders that the summoned ones don't take the situation seriously because they believe it's all just a game. The knight then reflects that forcing them to fight would be useless, preferring to see them evolve on their own, until he hears his allies call out to him. Through the magical broadcast, the team confirms that the tower preparations are complete and mentions they've buffed the monster's power for the upcoming battle. Hyped for the event, the locals report that everyone back at the secret base is already watching the battle stream. Pleased with the support, the master concludes it won't be long before the enemies show up along the path. Right after, a thick, dark magical mist begins to spread rapidly through the entire forest. Startled by the sudden change in their surroundings, the adventurers halt their march, confused about what's going on. Unable to see the path ahead, the hunter remarks, impressed by the high-quality atmosphere of the area. Analyzing the destruction around them, Leon warns that the erosion affected the region even inside the magical barrier, leaving his companion puzzled. Watching the creature emerge from the darkness, the knight warns that a powerful force discovered their expedition and intervened. Faced with the sudden surge of dark tendrils, Leon yells in shock that they need to fall back immediately. Seeing the threat approach, the knight intercepts the energy blade with his sword in a precise block. Wasting no time, Leon orders the team to retreat at once, warning that this is a direct attack from the erosion. To everyone's shock, the girl screams in terror as she notices tentacles sprouting from all sides. As the ground cracks open, panic grips the adventurers, unable to comprehend what's happening to the land. Suddenly, a massive structure violently erupts from the ground, startling the archer. At blinding speed, numerous branches intertwine, forging a barrier right in the middle of the forest. At that exact moment, a blade drives itself into the earth, releasing an intense wave of energy. Channeling all his power, Leon unleashes a devastating blow wrapped in flashes of light. The shockwave engulfs the area, instantly purifying the threat all around them. As the dust settles, the young man asks if everyone is all right, with the leader replying they're only alive thanks to him. Looking up in sheer shock, the warrior warns that something is wrong and tells everyone to look at the sky. Above them, a shadow looms over the sun, casting darkness over the entire atmosphere. Staring at the desolate landscape, the heroes gaze at the black sun on the horizon, wondering what this phenomenon could mean. Moments later, a purple hand slams a heavy drumstick against the hide of a war drum. From high atop the crags, the goblin horde roars furiously to the beat, signaling the imminent battle. Amidst the bleak scenery, the monster horde roars relentlessly from the top of the mist-shrouded hills. Terrified by the sheer size of the enemy army, the adventurers whisper among themselves that this is real warfare, and they're in deep trouble. Analyzing the situation with gravity, Leon concludes it's a trap, and that the monsters were waiting for them all along. Noticing the precision of the ambush, the warrior woman adds that the enemy knew their exact schedule, pointing to a traitor in the village. Suddenly, a blade of dark energy slices violently through the air toward the group. From high atop the rocks, the creature leads the attack while Tia enjoys controlling the battle from behind the scenes. Panicking at the monster's fury, the mage vents her shock at their overwhelming numbers, declaring they're completely doomed. Taking full responsibility for the situation, the knight declares it's all his fault, and that it's too soon for the heroes to face such darkness. Raising his hand to activate his magic, he announces he will use his strength to send every warrior back safely. Instantly, glowing enchantment circles ignite beneath the feet of the assembled troops. Right after, a system notification pops up for the team, announcing that their leader is sacrificing his own power to save them. Desperate as she sees the spell's glow, Habiel begs him to wait, asking what will happen to him if everyone leaves. Faced with her question, Leon simply turns away with a gentle, serene farewell smile. Staring at his resigned expression, the archer's eyes widen, overwhelmed by intense emotion. Enveloped in the light of the teleportation spell, Habiel screams that he'll be left alone, swearing she'd rather die fighting by his side to the very end. Agreeing with the archer, the guild leader raises her axe and declares that a warrior never backs down from mere goblins. Right beside her, the hunter captain rallies his troops for battle, while everyone jokes about what's on the menu tonight. Hyped by the thrill of battle, the bard raises his instrument and promises to play a song as the crowd cheers around him. Seeing their determination, Leon asks if the heroes are truly ready to face a battle that defies all common sense. Without a moment's hesitation, the girl smiles and clenches her fist, replying that they are more than ready. Thanking them for their support, the knight grips his sword tightly, swearing to fight beside them even if his own soul is torn apart. With that, a massive wave of radiant energy bursts from Leon's blade, enveloping the entire expedition force. Surrounded by the buffing glow, the warriors are stunned to feel an extraordinary surge of power coursing through their bodies. Pointing his weapon toward the enemy army, the young warrior prepares the final signal for combat. Leading the charge with battle cries for Arsalan, the young man pushes forward with the entire force across the battlefield. With the adventurers' crushing march, the clash against the erosion officially begins. Watching the battle from the control room, one of the servants asks Tia if everything would have been in vain had the heroes chosen to retreat. With a sly smile, the author replies that the teleportation spell would have failed anyway, and the story would go on one way or another. Silently, Tia reflects that she would have given up on the summoned heroes if they had fled, admitting Jinwoo was totally right about them. Watching the expedition force collide with the goblins, she concludes in awe that humans are truly willing to fight to save this world. At that, Tia smiles with satisfaction, muttering to herself that she needs to give it her all too. Mashing the buttons with pure excitement, the girl declares she'll do whatever it takes to help them level up as she orders the horde to advance. On the front lines, Urugam orders the shield unit to push forward in a coordinated charge. Crushing the monsters with the force of his attack, the young man tells the enemies to fall before him. Showcasing the strength of his upgraded shield, the warrior mocks the monsters as he launches them into the air. Right after, one of the creatures leaps from above with its club to strike his defense. The monster's heavy blow hits the shield dead on, sending sparks flying off the impact. Holding ground against the assault, the defenders shout for everyone to hold the line and block the enemy charges. Amid the chaos, another adventurer is struck by a surprise attack and tries to react quickly. Nearby, a female player prepares her defense, only to take a heavy hit from the enemy. Seizing the opening, the hunter tells Urugam he'll use his shield to vault over the enemy line. Stepping firmly onto his companion's shield, the young man gathers momentum and launches himself into the sky. Reaching the peak of his jump, the adventurer raises his weapon to set up a devastating strike. Channeling all his power into the descent, the young warrior drives his sword down in a direct strike. The impact tears through the ground violently, obliterating the cluster of monsters around him. Driven by the force of the strike, a massive shockwave expands, sending the creatures flying through the air. Moments later, a massive whirlwind of light sweeps across the battlefield, cleansing everything in sight. Faced with this destruction, the corrupted creatures collapse in defeat onto the shattered ground. Wielding his radiant blade, Leon firmly declares that he will protect every last hero. Impressed by Leon's charge, the guild leader shouts that he showed them how it's done and orders her warriors to attack. With that, the entire troop charges forward into battle, shouting with excitement. Gripping her massive axe firmly, the girl prepares to deliver a devastating blow. Swinging the blade with violent force, she strikes the first target with incredible power. Next, the warrior headbutts the monster hard to stun it. Relentlessly, she slams the creature onto the ground as the enemy lets out a cry of pain. Suddenly, another monster creeps up from behind, trying to catch her off guard. At that exact moment, 2 projectiles hit the beast's neck, stopping its charge in its tracks. As the creature collapses to the ground, the hunter steps up to cover her back. Exchanging a quick greeting, the guy wishes her a good hunt while the warrior shouts out her guild's name. Right after, Habiol calls out to the backline and orders the ranged unit to get ready. Upon her command, the archers unleash a rain of arrows all at once into the enemy forces. Noticing the jokes in her livestream chat, the streamer angrily demands her viewers quiet down. Meanwhile, the mage division casts their spells together, unleashing a barrage of elemental attacks. With the combined impact, a massive wave of explosions devastates the monster ranks across the battlefield. Hit by the sheer power of the blast, the burst of flames hits the creatures dead on, sending them flying through the air. Seeing the endless horde of enemies, the mages warn that their mana will run out quickly and ask if they brought enough potions. Watching the excitement around him, the bard thinks about how bravely everyone is fighting in the true heat of battle. Feeling inspired, the young man hyped up announces he'll play an encouraging song to boost everyone during the fight. As the music starts to echo, the mages are stunned to see the energy around them begin to react. Noticing the spell's reaction, one of them realizes in shock that the melody is actually restoring the bard's own mana and health. Seeing this, the warriors tell the team to soak up the musician's buff, while he cheerfully replies he's glad to help. Fired up by the support, the adventurers push forward even harder, striking the creatures without mercy. Pulling back her bowstring, Habiol calls out that the raid is slowly gaining ground. Amidst the chaos, one of the adventurers confidently claims they'll win this fight no matter how many monsters there are. Suddenly, a devastating impact tears through the sky, crashing heavily right into the middle of the battlefield. Shocked by the rising dust cloud, the warriors wonder what just fell and quickly recognize the threat. Taking in the sight, the troop screams in panic as they identify the infamous hero killer. Without hesitation, the creature drives its weapon into the ground, blasting a devastating wave of dark energy at the troop. With that, the spell buffs the surrounding monsters, driving them into a furious frenzy back on the attack. Under the influence of that magic, grotesque hands begin rising from the cracks in the ground. Watching it unfold, the adventurers panic as they realize the fallen goblins are coming back to life. In the middle of the chaos, the heroes cry out in despair, asking how they're supposed to defeat an immortal army. With that, the horrific hero killer carves a path of destruction, wiping out dozens of players with every swing. Seeing the tragedy unfold, Leon intercepts the charge and shouts boldly, declaring himself the creature's true opponent. Facing the challenge, the abomination roars furiously as it turns to face the knight. Wasting no time, the young man delivers a precise strike, clashing his blade right against the enemy's weapon. Focusing his power, he unleashes a devastating slash radiating with brilliant energy. With the crushing impact, the creature is sliced in half and hits the ground lifeless. Seeing the victory, the troops erupt in euphoria, realizing Leon defeated the terrifying hero slayer. Suddenly, spikes of dark energy drop from the sky, slicing through the air with extreme violence. Before anyone can celebrate, the purple blades impale the beast's fallen body. Shocked by the disturbing sight, the group retreats as a dense aura wraps around the corpse. Amidst the dark smoke, the abomination flashes a twisted grin, revealing it hasn't been destroyed yet. Gripping its weapon, the creature laughs mockingly as it stands back up before them. Staring at the resurrection, the girl asks Leon what on earth is happening. Pointing to the horizon, the knight explains that the pillar outside the barrier keeps summoning and reviving the army of erosion. Hearing her question, Leon reveals there is a core inside the structure and vows to clear a path for the heroes to destroy it. Without hesitation, Habiel nods firmly, declaring they will smash that core no matter what. Seeing the adventurers resolve, the young man nods back, trusting in the plan. Leon then rallies everyone to charge together as he leads the rush toward the dark spire. At once, the goblin horde lunges forward, screeching furiously to block the troops' advance. Leaping over the enemies, the warrior channels his magic into his blade for a devastating strike. Slamming his weapon into the ground, a massive shockwave wipes out dozens of creatures in a single burst. The force of the impact carves a path straight through enemy lines to the base of the pillar. Seeing the path open up, Habiel tells her companions to push forward without stopping. Suddenly, a goblin leaps from the shadows, attempting a surprise attack from above. Sensing the danger, Leon springs forward and throws himself in the way to block the blow. Taking the hit, the knight groans as dark energy starts creeping over his armor. Even under intense pressure, the young man swiftly spins his blade, destroying his attacker with one slice. Witnessing this, the girl cries out in terror for the knight as he collapses to his knees before her. Though injured, Leon manages a faint smirk and orders her to keep pushing forward without hesitation. The defenders charge ahead, shouting for everyone to keep running while swearing to block the monsters with their own bodies. Out of energy, the mages panic as their mana runs dry, choosing to self-detonate rather than fall to the beasts. A violent wave of magical explosions consumes the battlefield, drastically reducing the number of survivors. Overwhelmed by the carnage, the young girl groans, fighting to stay on her feet as she runs. Looking ahead, Habiel panics, asking how there can still be so many creatures guarding the structure. Throwing themselves forward, the two guild leaders tell the archer to keep heading straight for the objective. Drawing her bowstring with all her strength, the girl concentrates her energy to unleash a final decisive shot. Firing the spirit arrow, a massive beam of light slices through the goblin ranks, clearing the path ahead. The blast sends surrounding creatures flying, blown away by a gust of shimmering wind. Laughing with confidence mid-air, the young woman reminds everyone that their only goal now is to shatter the core. However, several beasts leap toward her, trying to intercept her in mid-air. Realizing only 2 survivors remain in the squad, the warrior pushes through her injuries to ensure the final push. Charging side by side, the old man orders her not to stop, reminding her that Leon and their allies' sacrifices can't be in vain, and she immediately agrees. Stomping firmly onto the ground, the warrior gets the final burst of momentum to leap toward the pillar. Launching herself into the air with grit, the girl yells out, raising her axe alongside her companion. In a combined assault, the duo's weapons strike the crystal core with full force. Under the devastating impact, deep cracks begin spreading rapidly across the entire structure. As the stone shatters, the hunter cheers wildly, shouting that they finally managed to destroy the core. Suddenly, a dark rift tears open in midair as a menacing voice asks who said this was over. Hearing the taunt, both warriors widen their eyes in absolute shock at the portal. Emerging from the smoke, the skeletal figure calls the heroes insolent fools, warning that now they have to deal with him. Facing the warriors, the skeletal figure emerges wrapped in an intense aura as it prepares to strike. Raising its bony hand, the creature warns that the adventurers have brought complete chaos to this place. Next, the villain gathers a colossal sphere of energy above its head, telling those filthy scraps of light to die once and for all. Seeing the devastating attack falling from the sky, the survivors panic, crying out that it's impossible to block. Suddenly, someone charges forward at breakneck speed to step in front of the group. Throwing himself into harm's way, Leon appears at the last second to shield his comrades with his own body. As the powers collide, a massive explosion sweeps over the battlefield, shaking the very earth. Pushing his power to the absolute limit, the warrior groans in pain, doing everything he can to contain the destructive impact. With one final surge of effort, the energy erupts into a massive shockwave, clearing the threat from the area. As the dust settles, Leon collapses to his knees in utter exhaustion, while the heroes scream his name in pure terror. Watching the scene with disdain, the skeletal enemy scoffs, mocking those insects for clinging so desperately to life. The creature then triggers a new magic circle and commands its giant servant to finish off the survivors. At that moment, a colossal monster emerges from the ground, towering threateningly over the helpless group. Though heavily battered, Leon leans on his blade and firmly declares they can't lose now after coming this far. Facing the challenge with a determined look, the knight asks his companions if they're with him to face this battle together. Their spirits renewed, the warriors shout in unison that they'll fight by his side until the end, hurling themselves into combat. Instantly, the giant creature swings its massive club down in a crushing blow against the group. Acting fast, the adventurers block the attack with all their might and launch a joint counter-offensive against the beast. As the intense battle rages on the field, thousands of viewers watch everything live on the stream. Staring at the screen, a young man panics over the hero's impending defeat and blames the company for making the mission so absurdly hard. Clutching his head in regret, the guy bitterly wishes he had bought the device during the first pre-order so he could help them. Suddenly, a chime catches his attention as an unexpected notification pops up right before his eyes. Reading the special event message, the young man is stunned to see that the goddess is asking future warriors for help. Elsewhere, a viewer stares at his phone in disbelief, realizing that even spectators can join in on the action. Across the city, people on public transit get pumped as they realize they can send their strength to save that world. With the crowd's confirmation, a glowing message thanks the future fighters for their overwhelming support. Back on the battlefield, the colossal monster charges forward, roaring with its club raised against the exhausted knight. However, gleaming specks of light suddenly begin to form around the enemy's body. A rapid series of luminous explosions then consumes the giant, making the beast roar in pain from the cascading hits. Watching the sudden turn of events, the female warrior widens her eyes, unable to comprehend where such immense energy came from. Seeing the gleaming beams strike the beast, she asks about the mysterious light tearing the monster apart. Raising his hand toward the sky, Leon explains that the goddess gathered the hero's willpower, leaving his companion puzzled by the statement. Gathering energy in his palm, the young man recalls that the goddess sacrificed everything to summon the warriors, recognizing their courage and resolve against the erosion. As he looks back at the memory of the great evil, the knight reinforces that this strength lives within each and every one of them. Turning to his group, Leon states that thanks to the heroes, they can finally dream of freedom from the erosion, asking them to lend him their strength to work a miracle. Hearing his plea, the warrior and her companion readily agree, promising to do whatever it takes to help. Watching the scene in despair, the skeletal villain is shocked to realize they were able to summon the divine light. Consumed by extreme rage, the monster snarls that he must destroy them all before things get any more troublesome. Suddenly, the figure of the saint emerges from the radiance, firmly declaring that she won't allow it. Holding her hands together in prayer, the young woman warns that heroes are not beings a vile creature like him can touch. Looking up at the sky in panic, the villain wonders in disbelief if that energy belongs to the goddess herself. At that exact moment, a massive, glowing pillar descends from the heavens and consumes the colossal monster, making the beast roar as it's destroyed. Next, The devastating beam hits the skeletal leader head-on, making the creature scream as its body is disintegrated by the light. With the enemy eliminated, the saint remains floating gently in the sky, surrounded by a radiant halo. Turning her gaze to the warriors, Irie warmly praises everyone for standing so bravely until the end. She then introduces herself as a servant of Lady Ella and declares that the warriors' courage guided her light to this place. Kneeling respectfully, Leon greets her as the saint, while the female warrior steps back in shock upon recognizing the divine figure. Cutting the greetings short, the saint warns them that they can talk later, as the battle has not yet come to an end. As the skeletal creature spews curses, threatening to kill everyone, the female warrior questions if they can truly defeat that monster with just their current strength. Desperate at the warning, the girl asks if that means there is no longer any hope of victory. With a calm smile, Aerie replies that it would indeed be difficult to triumph relying solely on the group present there. The servant then raises her hands, announcing that she will use the power granted by the future heroes to cast a new enchantment. Noticing the glowing circles expanding across the ground, Leon and his companions watch in surprise as the spell unfolds. Right after, a system alert reveals that Irie is using the Light of Miracles to resurrect the players. Amidst a beam of light, Habiol reappears in shock, unable to understand how she returned to life at that moment. Seeing the archer reappear on the battlefield, the leader is stunned while the live stream fills with messages celebrating the resurrection. Thrilled with joy, Uragam shouts in celebration at the confirmation of his return as the survivor count begins to rise. As hundreds of adventurers reappear throughout the area, the troops celebrate enthusiastically, officially back in the fight. With a radiant smile, Leon and the warriors thank the supporters in the audience and chant in exaltation of the saint. With the power of the audience restoring thousands of lives, the entire army stands united and renewed to rejoin the battle. Buzzing with excitement, the adventurers cheer loudly, swearing to fight with everything they have to save Arsalan. Then, the entire troop charges into battle in a joint assault, shouting to protect the kingdom at all costs. Advancing alongside the fighters, Leon observes everyone's contagious enthusiasm as they maintain a steady march. Wearing a satisfied smile, the warrior reacts as he sees his plan unfolding exactly as he had foreseen. Swept up in the thrill of battle, the young man lets out a bright laugh as he leads the charge against the enemy forces. Meanwhile, at the magic tower, the mages panic as they notice the spell calculations starting to scramble. With the main crystal overloading, the disciples shout that the processing capacity has hit its limit and the illusion magic is breaking apart. Acting quickly, Tyrus grabs one of the mages and orders him to connect the tower to convert the black smoke into light particles. Facing the threat of collapse, the girl orders everyone to connect their mana channels to process it manually. Feeling the extreme strain of the process, Tyrus reflects that it's consuming more energy than expected and concludes she will need new assistance. With a deafening roar, the giant monster raises its heavy weapon to deliver a crushing blow. From the brutal impact of the attack, the ground shatters as the adventurers are sent flying by the shockwave. Facing the violent onslaught, the warrior screams while channeling his energy to withstand the strike. Clasping her hands in prayer, Aerie firmly commands all the heroes to rise once more. Emerging from glowing circles, the players cheer in euphoria as they realize they've been brought back to life by the saint's blessing. Fearlessly, the troop charges forward, knowing they have the full support of Leon and the Guardian by their side. Launching themselves at the giant creature, the adventurers unleash a barrage of strikes to bring it down. Taking advantage of this, the mages order continuous attacks, giving the enemy no room to catch its breath. Pummeled from every side, the monster lets out a cry of pain as it gets cornered by the crowd. Enraged by the humans' retaliation, the skeletal villain fires dark orbs, shouting in anger at their audacity. Floating amidst a divine glow, Aerie calmly warns that any attack from the creature will be useless. Moments later, massive bursts of light sweep across the battlefield, wiping out the enemy forces. Reassuring the troops, the saint promises to block all of the Lich's magic, while the warrior expresses his relieved gratitude for the support. Enveloped by the divine buff, the elf celebrates in surprise, feeling his body become incredibly light and full of energy. With a soft smile, Aerie encourages everyone to keep fighting without hesitation. With a gentle wink, Aerie assures them that this special boost will aid everyone in battle. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Halun pushes himself to the limit to keep the illusion of the spells active. Channeling his energy with determination, the servant turns the Guardian's powers into blessings of light before everyone's eyes. Exclaiming that this is a sacred trial, Halun vows to fulfill his duty as the last pope of these lands. Unleashing all his power at once, the Pope orders the heroes to use the buff to defeat the monster. Taking full advantage of the divine blessing, the guild leader leaps forward, delivering a devastating blow to the beast. With a lightning-fast strike, the warrior's blade slices the giant creature straight down the middle. Taking the devastating attack head-on, the monster lets out one final roar as its body splits apart. With the force of the final blow, the beast crashes heavily to the ground, completely defeated. Watching the giant's body dissolve into smoke, the adventurers celebrate the end of that threat. Raising their weapons high, the warriors cheer triumphantly as the stream's audience goes wild. Furious over his servant's defeat, the Dark Lord rages against the audacity of the heroes. Pointing his blade at the enemy, Leon declares that only the villain remains to be beaten. Unfazed by the challenge, the monster tells the knight not to boast, promising to wipe out all the heroes that very day. Smirking cunningly behind the scenes, Jinwoo asks Hasman if they should make the grand finale even more spectacular. Hearing his master's proposal, the servant replies with a sinister smile that he would be delighted to do so. Focusing his magic, Hasman informs the young man that he is ready to launch the ultimate attack. Gripping his blade tightly, Leon declares he will use the accumulated power of light from everyone. Raising his weapon toward the heavens, the young knight draws the surrounding energy into his body. With an incredible leap, he charges straight into the enemy's magic, slicing the attack right in half. Delivering a crushing blow, the knight strikes the Dark Lord with all his might. Leon and the creature then engage in intense aerial combat, trading blows at blistering speeds. Parrying the opponent's claws, the warrior presses his blade forward to break through the enemy's defense. Watching the scene from below, Hebial gasps in awe at the sheer scale of the fight. Before the stunned crowd, the shockwaves from the duel echo across the entire battlefield. Gathering a massive sphere of energy, the villain shouts that his long rivalry with the prince will finally come to an end. With that, a colossal stone structure ruptures the ground and surges into the sky. Looking up, Leon gazes at the massive floating rock raised by the monster's power. Immediately, the Dark Lord hurls the colossal mass of stone straight toward the knight. Focusing the remaining light into his gleaming blade, the young man prepares to face the ultimate impact. With a focused gaze, the knight raises his sword vertically as a surge of immense power builds within the weapon. In a single devastating motion, he swings downward, releasing a massive pillar of light toward the target. The shockwave rips through the air, tearing the giant structure apart as it blasts directly toward the villain. Facing the impending strike, the Dark Lord's eyes widen in absolute terror as he sees the magic closing in. Hit dead on by the radiant attack, the monster lets out an ear-splitting shriek as flames consume his body. Desperate amidst the destruction, the villain begs the Shadow Priest to save him from the attack immediately. At that exact moment, a purple magical rift tears open behind him, offering an escape route. Laughing as he is rescued, the creature thanks the Shadow Priest while stepping through the portal to escape. Before the passage closes completely, the monster bellows for Prince Leon to await his return. As the blinding light fades, Hebiol and the other adventurers stare at the scene, completely frozen in shock. Right after, a shower of shimmering particles begins to gently fall across the entire battlefield. Above them, the dark mist vanishes, revealing a clear night dominated by the glow of the full moon. Overwhelmed with emotion, Hebiol cheers loudly as she notices the erosion is gone and the region has been fully purified. Calmly sheathing his blade, Leon remarks to the heroes that even though the Lord escaped, they managed to reclaim the lost territory. Glancing sideways with a victorious smirk, the knight firmly declares that victory is finally theirs. At the knight's declaration, the crowd of adventurers erupts in euphoria, celebrating that triumph finally belongs to them. Gazing at the starry sky, Leon ponders that with the erosion curse lifted, even more heroes will be able to reach Arsalan. Following the expedition's success, the official website posts an announcement confirming the end of early access and the start of the second pre-order phase. The post highlights the highly anticipated launch of the virtual reality gear and invites new warriors to join the battle. The news causes online communities worldwide to explode with excitement as thousands rush to secure their device. With fierce competition for the final units, flight tickets to Korea sell out instantly in the buyer's mad dash. Back in Arsalan, Tia observes the warriors' enthusiasm and comments on how strong they've become after defeating the threats. Flipping through her notepad, the writer reviews the steps of her master plan to make humans fall in love with that world. She places special emphasis on the crucial step of inflicting devastating trauma on the players just when they're most attached. With a sinister smile on her face, Tia thoughtfully wonders which major character she should kill off first to kick off the tragedy. With the announcement of the second exclusive pre-sale in Korea, a crowd of people from various countries began traveling to the location. Soon, major international stars and renowned businessmen started landing at the airport in search of the device. Even a legendary billionaire investor was spotted eating at a diner right across from Jinwoo's company building. When interviewed on site, the investor explains that his money is worthless to the young man and that he is investing whatever time he has left. Holding his drink, the old man adds that the chance at a second life is priceless, even though he never managed to meet with Jinwoo. Meanwhile, inside the company, the young man watches the large screen showing a notice that only 1 hour remains until server maintenance. Looking at the village square packed with players, the director comments that they won't be able to log in for an entire week once the service is shut down. With a bright smile, Jinwoo thanks his entire team for the excellent job done during the early access period. Next, he announces a special bonus for everyone, making the employees celebrate enthusiastically in the room. Leaving the final tasks to the director, Jinwoo mentions he is heading to the lab and receives a cheerful wave from his colleague. Meanwhile, in the village of Ident, several locals gather in the main square to say goodbye to the warriors before maintenance begins. At that moment, a player runs up to Haina to excitedly share that she managed to reach level 13. With a stern look, the servant replies that her strength is still lacking and tells the girl to keep training, leaving the adventurer beaming despite the scolding. Right beside them, several warriors surround Eri, asking if they can visit her at the temple, leaving the guardian quite embarrassed. Letting her sweet nature take over, Eri winks warmly and assures them they will always be welcome, making the group cheer with joy. In another corner of the square, juicy pieces of meat are roasting over the fire for dinner. Offering a portion to the elf, the adventurer suggests that Tia try the pork belly roasted on the shield, making the girl compliment its wonderful smell. Tasting the meat, the young elf is surprised by its unique, crispy flavor, claiming she has never eaten anything so delicious in Ident. Watching the group's excitement, Leon silently observes the scene with a watchful eye. Soon, a gentle breeze blows as the lively energy of the heroes fills the entire square. Noticing the knight's presence, the adventurers raise their mugs and cheer excitedly, calling out to Leon. Walking toward the crowd, the warrior thanks everyone for their hard work in the goblin battle, and lets them know it is time to say a temporary goodbye. Overcome with emotion, the players beg him not to forget them and promise to return as fast as possible. Straightening her posture, the guild leader tells everyone to wipe their tears and reminds them that their progress won't be wiped. Even while crying intensely, the female warrior adds that this isn't a final goodbye and that they will all be together again soon. Offering a comforting smile, Leon replies that he will never forget the precious memories he shared with each of those heroes. Taking advantage of the final minutes, the adventurers add each other as friends on the network and plan to meet again at the official launch. Gathered in groups, the allies exchange hugs and say goodbye, wishing everyone a great reunion. Reaching out his hand warmly, the knight smiles and declares that he will be eagerly waiting for everyone's return. Then, a massive pillar of light envelopes the square as all the players begin to log off from the game. Facing the suddenly empty square, the allies remain in absolute silence, staring at the spot where the warriors once stood. Shortly after, Tia lets out a long sigh and stretches her arms, enjoying the calm of the moment. Stretching a bit more, the girl comments to her companion that it feels strange for everything to be so quiet, admitting she had gotten used to the noisy crowd. Clapping his hands to get the group's attention, Leon instructs everyone to rest and resupply, as there is still a lot of work ahead. Before they can leave, Tyrus warns that the Magic Tower's resources are at their limit and urgently need to be replenished, catching the knight off guard as she reminds him of the new readers on the way. Explaining the severity of the problem, the assistant stresses that they won't be able to maintain the current illusion, reminding him they even had to cut Halon's appearance during the battle due to a lack of energy. When asked about a solution within the 1-week deadline, the elf reveals that there is only one alternative capable of supporting so many people. Impressed by that number, Leon considers that they would need another magic tower or a crystal mine, suddenly realizing what the only source with that much power would be. When he asks if that option means turning to Helby, the elf confirms his theory while the servants shrink back in horror at the mere mention of the name. Stating that bringing the legendary creature would solve the entire energy crisis, the assistant hears the knight agree, despite the severe risks involved. Known as the demon dragon Helaviolani Ursig, the imposing beast is remembered as a true ancient calamity that once coveted those lands. It is a legendary entity that opposed the goddess Ella in the past, so feared that simply uttering her name could cast curses. However, after the spread of the erosion, the great creature lost part of her power and went into seclusion to heal her deep wounds. Reflecting on the matter, the young man acknowledges that the Dracaena functions like a living magic tower, possessing reserves infinitely greater than those of any mortal. Approaching the conversation, Hasman warns that the local infrastructure will need a complete overhaul to house the new fighters, which will require a colossal amount of energy. Laughing mischievously, Tia suggests that instead of rebuilding the village, they should simply destroy everything at once. To the shock of everyone present, the elf proposes burning the village to ashes and mobilizing the heroes to rebuild it later. Scripting the scene in her mind, Tia adds that seeing the village destroyed will make the heroes weep in despair, especially if a resident ends up dying. Grabbing her terrified companion, the writer uses her as an example, saying that someone sacrificing themselves to defend the guild would be perfect to blame on the erosion. Listening to the dramatic plan, Tyrus states that Helby's help will be essential, making the knight realize he will have to go meet her. However, the assistant insists that the young man make this visit using Leon's form, leaving the guy surprised by the request. Challenging the suggestion, Jinwoo states that this body is far too weak to face the dragon and tells them to find the special vessel he built in the past. The creature in question is a colossal body shaped like a centipede, designed specifically to fight the Dracaena. Smiling gently, Tyrus assures her master that using his current form will work perfectly. Accepting her arguments, the knight resumes his steady walk toward the dragon's lair. Arriving at the foot of the mountain, Leon stares into the dark entrance of the cave, second-guessing his decision to grant his companion's request. Gazing into the darkness of the place, the knight tries to reassure himself, thinking he can simply run away if things get dangerous. Observing the purple barrier around it, the young man notes that the dragon's defenses remain impenetrable, though still unable to stop the erosion. Without encountering any resistance, the young man easily steps through the rift of energy. Entering the cavern, the knight slowly walks among the glowing crystals covering the ground. Suddenly, the massive dragon awakens from its slumber atop the mountain of coins with a menacing growl. Trying to stay calm, the knight greets the creature warmly with a slight smile. Irritated by his presence, Helby demands to know how that disgusting mage dared to set foot in his domain. While the dragon is impressed by his audacity to come alone, Leon asks for a moment, explaining he only came to talk. Refusing any dialogue, the beast commands silence, warning it will tear that detestable body to shreds. Hurriedly dodging the attack, the young man sighs, having already guessed this would happen. With no other choice, the guy grips his sword, determined to strike back against the assault. Taunting his opponent, the creature tells him to bring it on, promising to destroy that arrogant face. However, taking a closer look at the knight, the dragon suddenly recognizes his radiant appearance. Before the monster, Leon's stunning figure emanates a flawless, irresistible glow. Struck by such incredible beauty, Helby freezes in shock and stops the attack immediately. With a sudden shift in attitude, the creature recalls the young man's offer to talk. Helby then considers that a human form would be far more convenient for a conversation. Amidst the transformation magic, the dragon takes the form of an elegant woman with dark hair and horns. Witnessing the creature's sudden change, Leon stands completely bewildered, unable to grasp what just happened. Stepping forward with firm strides, Helby tells the young man to rejoice at what comes next. With a vain smile, the dragon declares she will grant him the great honor of her beautiful presence. Cloaked in a dark aura, the creature presents her new human form before the knight. Impressed by the change, Leon remarks on how perfectly the dragon turned human, to which the woman proudly replies that it's nothing for someone as grand as her. Next, the young man asks if she didn't hate humanity, but Helby answers that she only hates ugly things, and most humans fit right in. Pointing her finger at the youth, the creature declares that he should consider it a massive honor to even speak with her in this form. As she tells him to follow her inside so they can talk, Leon silently ponders how the dragon has become strangely polite compared to her usual behavior. Guiding the knight through the temple's interior, the two walk down a massive hall lined with statues. Observing the surrounding sculptures, Leon comments that her taste is far more elegant than he had imagined. Suddenly, the young man stops in his tracks as he stares closely at one of the figures, noticing something strange. Analyzing the elder's petrified expression, the knight asks in surprise if these figures really are just ordinary statues. Glancing out of the corner of her eye, Helby reveals with a wicked smile that that particular man used to be the pope of these lands. Upon this revelation, the stone sculpture displays the frozen expression of ancient suffering. The dragon explains that humans always crave the impossible, and that former leaders sought eternal life, something the goddess would never grant. Helby adds that she promised to fulfill his wish if he won the hearts of the 10 high priests, leading the man to shower them with rare treasures to impress them. However, the creature reveals that not a single follower stayed by his side, as no one would follow a leader willing to violate his own doctrines. Standing at the gazebo, Helby concludes with satisfaction that she took possession of the entire temple and the petrified heroes after that man's failure. Hearing the story, Leon comments that they all turned to stone for failing their quests, a fate fitting for the terrible demon dragon who once fought the goddess. With disdain, Helby states that humanity is utterly despicable, having spent her entire life proving just that. The knight ironically thanks her for the educational story, provoking the woman to snap and demand he spit out what he wants once and for all. Without beating around the bush, Leon reveals he awakened as a transcendent being and used that power to summon heroes capable of saving Arsalan from the erosion. He then explains that a few setbacks came up in the process, asking for the dragon's help to resolve the situation. Faced with the request, Helby scoffs at the idea, asking if simple heroes could truly save the kingdom. The creature reminds the immortal mage of the horror he witnessed after the goddess vanished and countless mythical entities fell. The dragon adds that not even he found a way out, other than enduring the pain after dying thousands of times, questioning his belief in those warriors. She vents about how she used to hide in fear of the impending chaos while slowly wasting away in the dark. Helby then ponders her own suffering, wondering how much longer she will resist the corruption of the erosion. Reassuring his companion, Leon promises that everything is going perfectly so far and urges her to lend her support. Faced with the knight's confident words, the woman remains completely silent, staring intently at him. Noticing the determination in the young man's eyes, Helby recalls that the mage always had that same unyielding look. The creature remembers that he faced the erosion with that very same defiant gaze, even when she fled in defeat, something that infuriated her to her core. Grit her teeth, Helby concludes that the warrior possesses an unwavering strength that she herself could never achieve. With that, the creature declares her desire to destroy the mage before the erosion does, proving that his struggle and her past flight carry the exact same value. Helby then claims that if his long-awaited plan fails, he will finally surrender to despair, adding she'll only agree to help to see that reaction, not because of how he looks. Soon, the woman proposes a bet with the warrior, making him question what she could be planning. Explaining the rules, the creature warns that she will test the summoned heroes, subjecting each of them to deep trials and inescapable despair. The woman adds that she wants to see with her own eyes if they can overcome the challenges, proposing that the loser becomes the winner's slave or fulfills any command. Hearing the proposal, Leon reflects that testing the warriors and shifting the story's course wouldn't be a bad idea, concluding that Tia can adjust the script without any issues. Smiling at the opportunity, the knight enthusiastically declares that it's actually an automatic quest generator, leaving the dragon utterly confused. The young man explains that the guild's quests lack variety, and that it was tough creating so many tasks on his own without a real game structure. He adds that while players praised the lack of quests as extreme realism, to him it just felt like an incomplete system he intended to fix before the official launch. With a sinister glare, Helby warns that if any warrior perishes during the tests, it's simply their fate, as the weak could never defeat the erosion. To the dragon's surprise, Leon accepts the terms without hesitation, agreeing to every single condition imposed. Stunned by his compliance, the woman asks in shock if he really doesn't care about losing the fighters he brought with such effort, receiving the boy's calm confirmation. Faced with his composure, Helby stares at him in shock, asking if he's actually serious. Stammering at his reaction, the creature demands a magic contract to finalize the deal, and Leon tells her to prepare the document right away. Unrolling the parchment on the table, Helby orders the knight to read every clause and seal the bet with his signature. Examining the parchment, the contract states that the heroes must undergo the trials and sets the bet's terms for both parties. Reading the clauses, Leon asks what would happen if there were more than one warrior, to which the creature replies she will subject every single one of them to the tests. Helby then adds that in the past, not even the goddess could summon more than 3 heroes, claiming that to be the absolute limit. With that, the knight suggests setting the victory conditions, and the dragon establishes that the game only ends when the warrior's resolve to fight the erosion is completely shattered. Smiling wickedly, she adds that she will decide all the content and duration of each test, reserves the right to add even more challenges along the way. When asked about Leon's victory condition, the woman answers that he wins if the trials prove the summoned ones can truly save Arsalan. As the young man signs the paper without hesitating, the creature tells him to stop bluffing and offers to tear up the deal if he serves her for a week. Shocked to see the signature, Helby slams her hands on the table, asking how he didn't hesitate, only for the knight to reply that he will do whatever it takes to save Arsalan. Holding the parchment, the dragon cackles, saying he will regret this for the rest of his life, officially declaring the contract sealed. Overcome with mockery, the creature makes absurd demands, ordering the knight to obey her like her personal pet. Approaching with a smirk, Helby asks where the warriors are to start the trials, and Leon tells her they will arrive in a week. Then, the young man notes that there is actually a considerable number of summons, while the dragon insists there will be 3 at most. Watching the woman closely, Leon just murmurs thoughtfully about her mention of that number. With a smirk, the knight comments that she only got the first digit right, leaving her completely confused by his taunt. Turning around calmly, Leon reveals that it isn't 3 heroes, but 3,000, leaving Helby in absolute shock. Regaining her composure, Helby states that while that number is high, it's still within her power, assuring him that it will take time, but in the end, everyone will succumb to despair. Praising her for being a great demon dragon, Leon warns her that in just 1 week, that number will rise to 50,000, sending the woman falling backward in utter disbelief. Trembling in terror, Helby accuses the young man of lying and questions how that could be possible when not even the goddess could summon more than 3 people. Smiling with confidence, Leon replies that he can summon even more if he tries, adding that as soon as they reclaim the mana crystal mine, he'll easily manage 1 million. Desperately asking if 1 million is truly possible, Helby panics as the knight reveals his ultimate goal is to reach tens of millions while walking away. Saying goodbye and letting her know they'll see each other in a week, the young man leaves the woman on the ground, desperately weeping over what she has just done. Suddenly, Helby calls out to him from behind in a hesitant tone, addressing him as a great mage. Hearing her ask if they couldn't just call it a draw, Leon replies that he would love to, but reminds her that the contract forbids cancellation under any circumstances. Praising the flawless contract Helby prepared, he reminds her that the heroes respawn even if they die, and suggests she get plenty of rest to endure the hard work of creating the trials. At his warning, the creature remains frozen in total shock, realizing the true scale of the nightmare she has gotten herself into. As Helby collapses to the ground, mourning her ruin, the narration highlights that this was the exact moment Jinwoo successfully subdued the legendary demon dragon. Right after, a system notification confirms that Jinwoo has acquired the legendary grade quest generator and secured his newest overworked employee for the future.